Hi, welcome back to the Mind Sports Olympiad 2019. We're here for our final event before the medal ceremony. My name's Steve Rain and I'm here with Emily Watson.
Hello.
Welcome, Emily. How are you doing?
I'm good. Agricola didn't go so well for me in the first 2 rounds, but I'm looking forward to seeing how the final table goes.
That's right. We are all day Agricola today. If you love Agricola, you can come and play Agricola for the whole day effectively. They've already played 2 games. We're now down to our last game and we're going to look at our top table. That is where the 4 leading players in the event are. Emily graciously bowed out so she can join me to commentate, and she's obviously a slightly more seasoned Agricola player than me, even though that doesn't say much because I'm actually pretty bad. So we're going to join the final table now, and the winner of this table is probably certain to get the gold medal. So far, we're looking at going to get some of the standings at some point. Also, interestingly, Ankush Khandelwal has made the final table of this, and depending on how he does, may or may not actually change the Pentamind standings. He's not been leading at any point this week, but if he wins or potentially comes as low as even 3rd, he might even win the Pentamind ahead of Andras Kusk, depending on how Andras does in the event he's playing in anyway. So we're going to switch to the table. They're probably about to start or partway through the drafting process. We'll talk to you a bit about what that entails, and as we're going through the game, we'll talk about the rules and the strategies and the tips, and comment about how these players are doing. So what's happening? We've got, well, first of all, let's introduce the players. We've seen 3 of these players already this week, and Tom Walker is new. Welcome, Tom. We've got Ankush Khandelwal. He is our Pentamind competitor at the moment. We've got Kelda Smith. Kelda is a junior, or she's
still a junior.
She's still a junior, yeah. She's an excellent Eurogame player. She's already made a final table of Catan earlier in the week.
It's an impressive large field, an excellent top table to make.
It's about 50 people, wasn't there? That was excellent.
Pushing 60.
Yeah, so Kelda and Ankush actually both on that same table. I think Kelda came 4th and Ankush came 3rd. But we'll see. We've got Danton Hope, a Eurogame player. I'm going to wish Danton good luck if he is watching this. He has made, this is his 5th Eurogame final table, and he's yet to medal. It's quite a bit of a bone of contention for Danton here. But he's made the final table, so on to him. And we've got Tom Walker. I've not seen Tom this week, so I don't know much about him. Do you know Tom?
Tom Walker, I know, is an excellent Agricola player, and I know that he has come before to the Mind Sports Olympiad just for Agricola. I also know Danton Hope's done particularly well in it at the UK Games Expo as well.
Oh, he won this year, didn't he? So he got invitation to the World. So Danton kind of knows what he's doing. In fact, all these players do. That's why they're here.
Yeah.
So what happens in Agricola is a worker placement game where action spots, you can see they're all laid down in the board. There's one going to get revealed every round, so every round there's slightly more actions available and resources start piling up on those actions, and you can place your worker and do or take what that thing says. But one of the reasons Agricola is a pretty complicated game, there are some cards, and you can see them passing decks of cards around here. What's going on with these cards?
Okay, so at the moment they're choosing between their occupations. So each player will start with a hand of 7 cards. They will choose one from that set of 7 and then pass the cards clockwise around the table until every player ends up with a hand of 7. Once they've done that, they will move on to the minor improvement cards. It will be the same idea with drafting, starting with 7 cards, but this time they will pass anti-clockwise around the table. So at the moment it looks as though they're on about their sort of 2nd or 3rd card.
Okay, and this is called drafting.
Yes,
so
drafting the cards.
where you pick something you want and then pass it round, and in theory you can think about what might come back to you, and that's why drafting is skillful. So if you're in your opening hand, you go, oh, I really want this, but that might come back to me, and you can have a think as you're coming round about other cards you can pick in the hope that the card you've seen in your first pack comes back.
Yeah, so there will be only one hand that you don't see again, so you'll see 3 again. Of course, with the final card handed to you, you've got no choice over it, but you're right that you can think about, okay, what's the best card in this hand, but also what's the worst one, which one am I going to be left with at the end? Can I try and put anything with it to make it a little bit more playable?
Okay, and then they're going to do the same with the minor improvements, and do they go anti-clockwise?
Yes.
So they'll go the other way around, so just to make it completely balanced. So occupations like people who allow you to do certain actions or do things more efficiently.
Yeah.
And minor improvements are like buildings, a bit like the cooking hearth and stuff like that. They will allow you to potentially get some endgame points for doing things, or vice versa. Now, We're not going to go through all the particular occupations in the game, but I was told, or I've had a quick look through the deck about two, and there's two that kind of bring to my attention. There's one of them is the tutor, and that's something to do with points. How does the tutor work?
Yeah, so the tutor's likely to be played first because it gives bonus points at the end of the game, but it's based on how many you play. So at the end of the game, you receive 1 bonus point for each occupation that you play after this one.
So if I can play my tutor first and then play my other 6 occupations, I will get 6 points. And a winning score in Agricola is potentially at most 50-ish.
Yeah.
So 6 points is quite a big
6
portion
points
of that.
yeah, it's a large chunk of points for this.
Okay, and then the other one, I believe, is it the baker?
Yes.
And I've been told, and I don't really know what the baker does, but I'm told the baker's quite strong. So what does the baker do?
So during each harvest, you may bake bread at the start of the feeding phase if you have an improvement with the bread symbol. When you play this card, you may bake bread as an additional action.
So one of the problems with Agricola is feeding. And now every time I played, especially when I played for the first time, I spent the whole game worrying about feeding my people. So at the end of every round, you start the game with 2 people. You can see, although Ankush hasn't put his people out yet, you can see on Danton's board in the bottom left as purple. You can, apologies, well, he's got his name's in black, but he's playing the purple pieces. You can see he's got 2 discs there. Now, you have to feed, is it 2 food per disc?
2 food per disc. The only exception to that is when you do family growth during the game. If you've just gained a member into your family, it's classed as a baby, so it's only 1 food for that extra person.
So you have to feed your people 6 times over the course of the game. That's a lot of food, given you only start with 2 or 3 food at the start of the game. So if the baker allows you to bake bread and that feeds your family easier, that allows you to spend your actions doing other things rather than what I spend my whole game doing is getting food.
Yep, taking the baked bread action, I'm sure.
So you can see some of the spots on the board now. In the middle of the table, there are some cards with Roman numerals on. The cards with 1s on it will come out in the first 4 rounds. The cards with 2 on it will come out in rounds 5, 6, and 7, and so on. And they're kind of randomly done, so you know that the sheep action is one of the 1s, and that will come out in the first 4 rounds of the game, but you don't necessarily know which. So every game is slightly different. And a lot of those actions just pile up resources. You can see on the board, I don't know if you zoom in a bit at home, you've got 3 actions to the top left. On that middle board, one of them says 2 wood, one of them says 1 wood, and one of them says 2 clay. And if no one takes those things by putting a worker on, we get more next round?
Yes, so they always replenish, the ones with the arrow ones. So your 2 wood, 1 wood, and your 2 clay. There's also the travelling players, which is currently in the bottom right of those 6 face-up cards. That will gain 1 food. The one in the bottom left is the exception, which has a reed, a stone, and a food on it. That one does not gain that 3 extra next time.
Because that would be too powerful, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Okay. And so what you're doing on your turn is you're deciding which one of your discs, which one of the actions that your discs will go to. It doesn't cost you to do any of those actions. You just put them there and take the stuff or do the thing it says. But at the end of every certain number of rounds, you have to feed. You have to feed effectively. If you look at the numerals, at the end of the 4 1s, you have to feed. At the end of the 3 2s, you have to feed, and so on over the course of the game. In fact, on the very last action, you've just fed. You then get 1 more round. Then you have to feed again.
Yes, it's very important in this game to get a feeding mechanic going as early as possible to generate you some food.
Yeah, otherwise you're spending the whole game chasing food. Because if you don't feed people, do you lose points or something?
Yes, you're in starvation, so you lose points, and it's quite a big point hit to take. So you want to avoid starvation at all costs, really.
Yeah, one of the things I struggled with in the first game is that if you don't do certain things, you get punished for it. You lose points. So if you can't feed your people, you lose points. And I think at the end of the game, if you haven't built up your farm well enough, you lose points as well.
Yes, so -1 at the end of the game for every remaining space, and then all of the different sort of non-building resources, so animals and vegetables, grain and things like that, will gain you points, but you do get a -1 if you have none of them.
So if I finish the game with no sheep, I lose a point?
Yes.
And if I finish the game with 1 sheep, I get no points?
You get 1 point for that.
1
so
point
it's
for
a
sheep.
2-point swing in it,
Wow.
actually.
So I need to make sure I have at least 1.
The only exception to the sort of having 1 for the 1 point is for your ploughed fields. You need to get to 2 to get the 1 point. If you have 0 or 1, that's still a -1.
Really? So if I have one ploughed field, I get nothing?
Yeah,
Okay.
so if you're going to plough field, plough 2.
Yeah, but if you're going to plough fields, then you can start growing and sowing vegetables on them. That seems to be a way to get food as well.
It does, but then you need some method for converting that. So again, you can start looking at different ways to generate it. So either the major improvements on the right-hand side or some other way to turn your vegetables and grain into other things.
So the major improvements, you can see there's 10 of them on the right-hand side. They're not only worth points at the end of the game, like 1, 2 or 3 points, depending which one you build. They're like cooking ovens or hearths, are they?
Yes, effectively.
And you can use them to bake your bread and eat your cows and use it to... Does it get you more food than normal then?
It depends. Some of them you can't do without the action. So you can take the bake bread action on the board and do it that way, but you cannot turn your animals into food without taking one of the appropriate major improvements. So if you've got some cattle sitting there, you cannot do anything with it other than keep the cattle until you pick up one of those major improvements.
Okay, and in this game, assuming you get some, assuming it's not all about the occupations and minor improvements, are there different strategies to doing well?
I suppose there's different strategies to get your engines going. So again, with the feeding, you could, there are some cards you can chain together where when you take food from the board, you gain benefits from it, like extra food and things like that. That generally keeps your supply going. There are other cards for when you are retrieving vegetables or grain, you gain more food with them. And equally, there are strategies that give you extra animals, so it's a good idea to gain a major improvement to then use those animals for food.
Okay. And is it good to get extra family members? Because if you do... Oh, no, that's hard, isn't it? Do you have to build an extra room first?
Yes. Well, at the moment you do. So when we get to round 2, so you can see... Sorry, not round 2, but round 5. So you can see the cards that have got the 2 on the back. One of those will be family growth. Now, we don't know whether it's going to come out first, second or third. However, you want to be the first player or the second player to jump onto that. If you're third or fourth, you're going to be lagging behind because, of course, after you've done that, you get one additional turn every round. There is a card that comes up much, much later in the game, which is family growth without the need for a room. That's in the card you can see with the 5 on the back, so it's very, very near the end of the game.
So only 2 people are going to get to do that?
Yes, unless somebody's got one of the cards in play, which allows you to play on top of the family growth card.
Oh, wow, there's so much things going on here. So roughly how many cards are in the game, potentially?
So each person in their hand will have a hand of 7 occupations and 7 mining improvements.
Wow, so that's loads of flexibility. And within the context of a box of Agricola, is that there's not going to be 28 minor improvements. There's going to be like
huge stack.
Like 150
or
something.
Well over 100 in there.
Oh wow! So the players who've really memorised the combinations of cards will do so much better.
Yeah. Because then it depends what you get past your first card. You're trying to pick one that's good in any situation because you don't know what's going around. You could have one game where there's a lot of cards that are beneficial for grain, but actually if you can't take every single one of them, you know that your opponents are also shooting for a grain strategy, so actually you're going to be competing over it. So you want to get your own strategy, but make sure you're not passing on cards that are good for it to other players because you don't really want to be battling over the same things.
Yeah, I've seen a few Euro games where drafting at the start just adds greatly to the skill of the game. I think Terraforming Mars is another one. Where at the start of the game...
I've not played it before, but I know that the draft is important.
At the start of the game, it kind of takes away the randomness and allows you to have a cohesive strategy.
Yeah.
And imagine the same here. You can go down a strategy where you're just building lots of houses or you're just building lots of sheep or something like that with cards that kind of benefit from that.
Yeah, same in Terra Mystica, isn't it? But when you draft races, but at that point they're offering up points for them, so they lose points at the start to pick the best race that they think is going to succeed the most on the board. So.
Yeah, so this allows a bit more skill for players to manipulate in their favour. So you played 2 matches today. How did they go?
The first one I came last, but there was only, I think, another 3 or 4 points and I'd have been second place. So there wasn't much there. And then I got 3 more points in my next game, so I got third instead, which is nice.
So it seems like you had some close games, you just came out the wrong side of...
Yeah, and it's a game I've not played in a while, because at the Mind Sports Olympiad it's always here, but it usually clashes with something else that I'm interested in. So it's always one that I like to watch because some of the best players at it, I just look at their strategies and think, how did you see that? That's amazing.
So I was watching Ankush at the end of his second match, actually. He won that, but at the very end, they had a big, long discussion about the draft part of it, and he just said, well, why did you take that card first? Do you think this is a card that should wheel? Wheel means go round without anyone picking it, and things like that. So he was having a good conversation with a lady called Jennifer, I think, and she was giving him some really insightful advice there. And it's nice to see that even though he made the final table and beat Jennifer, he's still willing to take on theory advice that potentially it will help him in rounds to come. So that's excellent to see. Now, I will mention, and I mentioned it probably later on as well, that Ankush Khandelwal is currently second overall for the Pentamind. He's about 5 points behind Andres Kusk. And I believe because this is a premium event that the top two, if he comes first or second, he will get enough points to overtake Andres' score. And potentially, without getting our calculators out, even third might be good enough. That means he needs to come third in the event, not necessarily third in this particular table. So I imagine he's looking for a first or second place finish in this table, and I think that might be good enough for the Pentamind standings. It's been a really close race this year, hasn't it?
It has, yes. They've all been running around checking on each other to see who's got a little point extra here or a point there, and looking at the differences between them.
Yeah, so what we're going to do at a later point, maybe in between one of the feeding rounds, is have a look at the Pentamind standings. We're not going to have it right now, but we're also going to have a look at the Eurogame standings, which you can find on the Mind Sports Olympiad webpage as well, because I believe there's a few people at this table who have done well in Eurogames. Kelda Smith has done pretty well, hasn't she? And Danton Hope, who's made a lot of fan tables.
Yeah, well, all of his top tables, but never medals, have still given him some decent points for the Eurogames.
And I think someone you know quite well is doing quite well at the Eurogames, Mike Dixon.
Yes, I think my boyfriend's doing pretty well. He's won it in the past. When we looked before yesterday's results were added on, he was at the top with Charlotte Levy in close behind, who's a good friend of mine too. So it's a nice battle to watch the two of them
Charlotte's
competing.
in this competition as well, isn't she?
She is. She's very good at Agricola, actually. I think she's just had a bad day, because I'd have expected her to see her at top table, to be honest. She's an excellent Agricola player.
I think the standard's really high, though, talking to people. I mean, Scott Agius, again, he's had an excellent week.
Yep.
He won his first, so he came joint first, and then he's missed out on the final table with 2 joint firsts, which is pretty harsh given the the fact that no one's actually beaten him in a game. So, so unlucky to Scott. He's still got a chance for a medal if he can win at table 2, but we won't be looking at that. But Mike's not doing so well.
No, I mean, Mike enjoys Agricola, but it's not one of his strongest games at all. He does rank it as what he calls a hard Euro, so he sort of classifies soft and harder games, but it's not one of his favourite. He prefers harder games such as Terra Mystica and Gaia Project.
I'm with Mike there, I'm afraid. I do like this game, but I think you really need to dedicate a lot more time to become great at it. You need to know all the cards and the combinations and what card's good. Yeah,
you could easily play 5, 6, 7 games of it, and there would be 30, 40 cards you hadn't seen if you ended up getting a lot of the same cards coming up in your games. So.
Okay, in a second we're going to move over to the Eurogames. While they're still drafting, we're not really looking at what they're picking up, but we do have the cards ready to let you know exactly what they play. I know they're hard to see, so we're going to read them out because we've got a set of cards in front of us, but we're going to go over to the Eurogames standings just to see if the players matter. So we've got Emily Watson down there in 7th place. She's commentating with me, so you're doing not bad there, Emily, are you?
Yeah, I mean, I've not had the best year. I've had better years, but respectable scores, I'd say.
Yeah, what was your best event this year then?
First class.
First class.
It didn't get me many points because it was a tie break, so obviously you get less points when you're tied with someone, but I did get a silver medal there, which was good. Apart from that, I think Dominion, which I think is showing up on the far left there, the original Dominion as opposed to Dominion Expansions, which is the one just after it.
Oh, they're 2 decent scores there. So these ones aren't actually listed in numerical order. I think these are in the order that you played them in, isn't it?
Yes.
So we're looking at the top. We've got Mike Dixon leading. Ziggy is not playing Agricola, is he?
No, he's not.
So I think he's not. I assume he's not here today.
I'm not sure if he's here today, actually. I've not seen him. But
Ziggy can't improve on his score. Charlotte Levy, I think it looks like Mike's going to win this. I don't think anyone can actually overtake him. Charlotte Levy there.
Charlotte's got to improve on. Her lowest is 68.87.
Ticket to Ride, is that?
Yeah,
so she could get potentially, because this is a premium event, she can get potentially maybe close to 99 points, maybe 98, 99 points. So she could improve by not enough to catch Mike.
Not enough to catch Mike,
it looks like he's won, so well done. Scott Agius, he's at table 2 at the moment. He's looking to improve Dominion from 31. So I think Scott Agius is looking to potentially nick into 3rd place there if he does well. And Danton Hope, he can potentially move a few spaces, although whether he can reach Charlotte in 3rd remains to be seen.
Yeah.
So we're going to go back to the top-down view. We've got Ankush Khandelwal down the bottom as well. He's actually not got a 5th
no,
score.
4 scores, and he's still there on the list.
Yeah, but even if he gets 100, he can't catch Mike up. So I don't think he can make it into the top 3 unless he gets over 100 and they can overtake Charlotte. but she's also going to get a score from this as well. So that's
and because she's a sort of more wider board games player, isn't he? Whereas Mike's very Eurogames. He's sort of competed in and run a lot of the Eurogames this week. I'm not sure if he's actually done anything that's not Eurogame all week.
Yeah, I think that he does arbit though, doesn't it? So
he
it
does,
must be quite distracting if you're arbiting. So we're looking to get into a point where we start now, and what you will see early on. We're still minor improvement. What you will see early on is those cards in the hand will kind of dictate the player's strategies over the course of the game. And there are a few spots on the left-hand side of the board that allow you to play those cards from your hand. You can't just play them on your turn. You need to take to a spot. So if you look at the 6 on the left, one of those says one occupation. And there also is just underneath that, in the middle bit on the printed board, there is also one occupation. Those are the 2 spaces that are available at the start of the game to play occupations. What's the cost of playing an occupation?
So it depends which of the spaces you take. So you can see one's on a card and one's printed on the board. The one printed on the board is your first occupation is free. The one after that, all the ones after that will cost you 1 for playing on that space. The other one is 1 for your first occupation and then 2 after that, and that's paying in food. So as we said, a valuable resource, particularly earlier on in the game.
Yeah, because if you can't feed, you really, I mean, you can't afford to take a beggar token, really.
No.
But some of these occupations that you can play from your hand, for example, like the baker, allows you to kind of substitute like a different sort of feeding strategy. You can maybe acquire food in a different way, or like a more efficient way, and allowing you to do other actions. So it is important to get those occupations out there. There are 14 rounds in the game, so you can go on those spaces 28 times, and between them they have 28 occupations. So you imagine those are going to be very hard fought for spots. Another key spot that we're going to see taken, you can see that on the board, Danton's board at the bottom left, he's got a yellow token. What's that yellow token?
That's the first player marker.
And how do I change first player?
So you would need to take the starting player. So looking on the very left-hand side of the board, it's not a card action, it's the second one down in the sort of non-card action ones.
Printed board.
Yeah, so on the printed board you take start player for the next round, and you can also play a minor improvement as well.
Now the minor improvements are the other thing you're drafting here. Now some of the minor improvements are free, but some of them cost like resources like wood or clay or reed. Is
yes,
that right?
There's a variety. So some of them have an actual cost, you're right, resources, wood, clay, reed and things like that. I have seen one cost grain before as well.
Food and stone, yeah. I'm just looking through the ones that are in play today. One of them costs 5 stone.
That's quite a lot. I imagine that's pretty beneficial though later on in the game. But there's also other requirements with some of the cards in this game. So some of them will say that you need to have X number of occupations in play before you can play it. I've seen one where you have to have 2 grain fields sown in order to play it. So there are some requirements. You don't then have to pay for it, you just have to meet the requirement on your sort of board, on your farm, before you're allowed to play that card.
So one of the cards in the game, for example, is the fruit tree. It is free in terms of resources, but you can't play it unless you've already played 3 occupations. The fruit tree is allowing you to gain food as the game progresses. You can put some food on spaces that are ahead of you. So if you can get occupations down first and then play the fruit tree, again, it helps with feeding as the game goes on. And there might be some cards you've got in your hand that kind of rely on having other improvements in play. So obviously if one of the requirements is have 2 improvements in play, and you've played the fruit tree already, it allows you to play other improvements easier. So that's one of the spots. What are the other spots available to play these minor improvements then, or are they not out there at the start of the game?
So at the moment you can play a minor improvement on the starting player action. There is also, I believe, there is a space that is play a major or minor action, so that involves the red cards on the right side, or you can choose a minor action. There are somewhere after doing something you can also play minor improvements, so for example after family growth.
Okay, so some of those cards are going to come out.
Yes.
We will let you know what they are. I understand that there is a lot of information there. Agricola is what's known as a table hog. It means it hogs at the whole table, which unfortunately is why you're not seeing our lovely faces on commentary. We have a feeling that they're going to need a lot of the table space, and there's literally no space you can see us. So you've just got to hear to our pleasant melodic voices as you watch this game. But the game should take about 2 hours in total. There's going to be some pauses and stuff. You can see the players have clocks. Is that 15 minutes, 30? Is that their time bank?
So they've got a 15-minute time bank and then 30 seconds per move. So as long as they take less than 30 seconds, they won't eat into that 15-minute time bank. After 30 seconds on that move, they'll eat into the time bank. So those banks will change as we go through. So they'll add on however many seconds they took on that term up to a maximum of 30.
Okay, so although it looks like there's only an hour on those clocks, it's probably going to be at least 2 hours from the start. So we're in for a long haul here. Get yourself a cup of tea. We're close to starting. I think Danton has already started. He's played one occupation. He's gone straight away. They've thought about their first turns. And he's gone so fast that he forgot to even turn the sheep out.
And it's exactly one of the first occupations we said would come up in the game. That looks to be the tutor. So that's, again, as a reminder, at the end of the game you receive 1 bonus point for each occupation you play after this one.
Okay, so that's actually not going to affect anything Danton does during the game, but if he keeps playing occupations as the game goes on, he's just going to score points off that tutor. But now, if he plays more occupations in future, he will have to pay food for doing so. Remember, your first one is free using the spot he's taken. So what I mentioned earlier about the start player token is that the start player it's very important in some of these games to be first on certain rounds. There might be some really good spots if you're able to get there first. For example, you might desperately need an occupation and people are taking them before you get to go, which means you might just have to play the starting player action. And one of the key spots for going first is the turn that family growth comes up.
Yes, definitely.
So let's say that you're on round 6. The first 4 rounds have gone, you've fed, you've had another 2, and family growth still hasn't appeared. Well, you know definitely that it's action 7. And that means if you on action 6 take the first player, then when that family growth appears, you'll be the first to use it. And like Emily said earlier, family growth allows you a third go. Basically, every one of your discs is a family member. And how many can you have up to in the game?
Initially, it depends on how many rooms you've got. You've got 5 as an absolute maximum, so you could do that with 5 rooms, or as we said, very late on in the game, there is a move where you can family growth without the need for a room. So you could have start with your 2 rooms and do. It's unlikely you would not have to build at least 1 more room in this to get to your 5.
So to do that, so what you're thinking is before family growth comes up, I'm looking to get some food going, play a few occupations. Maybe get to the point where I can build an extra room before the family growth action comes, and if all that's come to the point, I've built my extra room and I've got the food to feed my people, and I know that getting this third family member won't break the bank, then and only then can I do it. It is a super hard game to kind of plan. So you'll see Kelda has gone onto the occupation space. She's played some fences. I think she's got something like the fence maker or the fence builder.
Fence delivery man, yes. So add 6 and 10 to the current round. Place 4 of your fences on each corresponding round space. At the start of these rounds, you can pay 2 food to build all 4 fences immediately. You may build fewer than 4 fences. You do not need to pay the wood to build these fences. So they're currently in round 1, so they've added on 4. So when it gets to 4 rounds ahead from now, so we get to round 6. Oh, sorry, add 6 on. 6 on. Ahead, yeah. So when we get to round 7, she will be able to place 4 fences on her board. She will have to pay 2 food to build those, but none of the wood cost associated with them.
Now, fences are good in 2 ways, because at the end of the game you're going to lose points for stuff you haven't covered on your farm. So fences allow you to kind of put some things down, and if you manage to fence off 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 tiles, they count as fenced off and they don't count as empty at the end of the game. And they allow you to host animals. So you can see the very first action space that was turned over, in fact after Danton made his move, was the sheep action space. So if you get sheep, I think you can have 1 sheep in your house.
Yes, 1 pet.
1 pet in your house. It's a weird pet. You can have a cow as a pet.
Yep. Or a wild boar.
Or a wild boar, and you can put that in your house. Otherwise, after that, you need to have fences or stables to do them. A fence stable is even better. So you can see on the top of their board they're collecting resources. Danton took 2 wood, Ankush took 2 clay, and I think we're now on Kelda, where Kelda took the day labour, which was just 2 food. And Scott has taken the 2 wood action, I believe. Not Scott, Tom.
Scott's got...
Tom.
It's Tom, isn't it?
Tom's
taken starting player with minor improvement, and he's also got 3 wood from that right-hand piece there. So it looks like he's choosing his minor improvement there.
Okay, so this minor improvement is one of the ones they drafted at the start. Just trying to find out which one it is for you. I think it's the corn scoop. He used the wood. He used the wood that he drafted, and he says when you take the grain action, you receive 1 extra grain. So it hasn't come up yet. It will come up on round. It hasn't come up round 2 either. But is that take grain and bake bread?
Take grain is the space underneath the starting player. So take grain's available from the start.
So if Tom goes on the take grain space, he will get 2 grain. And luckily for him, he can in theory sow that grain onto his field, although he would need to plough it first.
Yes, he would.
old hand at this. Does that look right?
In the room, you won't be able to hear him, but in the room we've got Andres Kusk. How's Lost Cities going, Andres? Not too well, he says. He's very honest with his performance, so it won't be changing your Pentamind score, will it? No. So I'm just going to be watching nervous, so we might see him in this room quite a lot, just to see how Ankush is doing. We will let him know every time he walks in if his benefit, he's smiling at us for that. Because Ankush Kandwal and Andres Kusk will probably finish first and second in the Pentamind this year, and this match will probably determine the order. So you can see that live and follow those results through. And if you want to look at the Pentamind standings, you can go to the World Mind Sports Olympiad page. So what you'll see over the course of the game, I think, is the starting player will change quite regularly.
Yes.
It's really bad to be going last because you're playing, so in this case, Kelda's playing 4th and 8th in this round, and that means all the good spots will go. If she wants wood, she'll get the worst wood spot if there's any ever left. Reed's important. Reed is, if you have 2 reed, it allows you to build an extra room. I think, is it 5 wood and 2 reed to build a room?
5 wood and 2 reed for a new wood room, and then when you want to upgrade your room, so from wood to clay or from clay into stone, you need 1 of the sort of clay or stone per room you've got, and you also need 1 reed total. So, for example, if you wanted to upgrade these 2 wood rooms you've got now to clay, you would need 2 clay and 1 reed to do so.
So Ankush has played the Village Elder. He has gone to in the first one is free, remember, if you take the spot that Ankush has gone on. He did that after Danton took the reed, the wood, the stone and the food. And what does the Village Elder do?
So if there are still 1, 3, 6 or 9 rounds to play, so there's at least 9 rounds to play, he will immediately receive 4 wood. At the end of the game, all players with the most played improvements receive 3 bonus points each. So it's a bit of a gamble there, isn't it? He gets 4 wood because there's still at least 9 rounds to go, which is helpful for an income for him now. But at the end of the game, all of the players will be scoring, all the players with the most improvements. So he needs to try now and obviously try and play as many improvements, major or minor, as he can.
To get 3 bonus points.
Yes.
Now, if it ties,
they both get the
okay,
points.
so
yes.
Ankush is kind of set his sights up. If someone builds more improvements than him, then Ankush's card is giving someone else the
3
bonus
points. Yeah.
So,
at that point, he must have a good hand of minor improvements.
Yeah, and he's got, and the fact he's got wood. If the minor improvements need wood to build, he's got that wood available.
Yes.
So Kelda took the 3 wood space, and Tom has gone on the 1 occupation space. And Tom's occupation, we're going to find out for you just in a second. Again, we've got the deck of cards in front of us so that you don't have to read them out. But it is... It is the wood buyer. So whenever another player receives wood from an action, you can buy 1 wood from him or her for 1 food, even without his agreement. So effectively, you can steal wood off people by giving them food. So if Kelda had gone to the wood space after Tom had bought that, then Tom could pay a food to take a wood. So Ankush is going to get some wood, and let's see if Tom uses his wood buyer action. He is.
Yep, there we go.
Yeah. So Ankush has got enough food to feed at the end of the first round. He's got 5 food now from the actions he's got. I believe he's got 5 wood as well. And again, if he's looking to get to the point where he can build a second room, he just now needs a reed. He's got his 5 wood. So Tom stealing that wood of him hasn't mattered too much. And if you look at Tom's board, he's got 2 reed and 3 wood. Again, if he can get some food and steal some wood off other people, I say steal, he's buying it.
Yeah.
But
it's
yeah,
just
that's
whether they're willing or not is irrelevant, unfortunately.
That's a very interactive card he's got there, isn't it?
Yeah. If you've got a good food engine going, you've got lots of spare food, it's an excellent way to make wood without having to spend your moves taking the wood.
This is Kelda's last action. She's just going to take some food.
Okay.
Danton's second action with starting player. He's played a minor improvement. Just going to find out what that is. So he looks like some sort of cow, I believe. So we are going to get that for you so we can see it out in front of us. And we'll remind you if it's going to be relevant It's not a cow, is it? It's a man in a field. It's the acreage. When you sow, you can plant 2 grain fields on this card. So basically, if he can get a lot of grain, he can sow it on that card without having a ploughed field.
Yep.
And then in harvest, so basically, one of the key bits of this game. So I think the last stage 1 action is build a room.
So what can we see already? We've already seen the
Yeah,
sheep.
we've got fences, sheep, and sow.
So we've got improvement left. So the final one is the major or minor improvement. So at the moment, no one can dip into that supply of red cards on the right-hand side. But we might start to have a look at who's going for clay and things like that, because some of them cost clay. It depends what you're going for, whether you're going for the ovens. So you've got 2 different types of oven, one of which is, I believe, 3 clay, 1 stone, and then the other one is 3 stone, 1 clay. And then along the top, you've got major improvements that allow you to convert your animals and also your grain when it's baked bread. So those will allow you to purchase them with clay. The first 2 are exactly the same, and then the 3rd and 4th are the same. However, they cost 1 more. So for the first 2 of those, it's 2 clay, 3 clay, then 4 clay, 5 clay. So you don't want to be the second person to take it. You have to pay another clay for it.
So Calder has just played a occupation, I believe. Yeah, so we're just trying to find out what that is for you. I understand that it is a bit hard to see from where you are, so we are trying to help out as best you can.
So your clock's going. We only use it.
And it is a stone cutter. All improvements, rooms, and renovations cost 1 stone less. So if one of those major improvements needs stone, she can now build it slightly cheaper.
So if she picked that quite early on in the draft, then then before she picked her minor improvements, she could know when looking at the minor improvements to shoot for cards that have stone requirements, because she's going to get a discount on them every time she plays them.
Yeah, that is clever. Also, if she doesn't need stone, she might not need to get stone at all. So these other players are going to this action in the bottom left to get their reed. You can see that Ankish has already got 2 reed, Tom's already got 2 reed, and Danton's got 1. You need reed for the roof of the extra rooms you have to build to get the extra people, to get the extra actions, to get the extra stuff, to get the extra food, to feed all your people, to get the points.
Yep, so it all changed. So at this point, I would be making sure that I could afford that extra room, because if I've got an extra room, no one else has got an extra room, they cannot take the family growth space without the space in their house to actually put them in. So if you're one of the first 2 people to go on there, at least you know you're only competing with 1 person. So I'd be building myself an extra room if I could, and then I'd be diving for that starting player in the hope that we flipped over family growth.
Now there is, you'll notice that Tom just went to the food space. He needs that because at the moment, if he wants to get his 5th wood, he didn't have any food for it. So Ankush just took that back. I don't know if he was thinking about getting the wood there. But if he was going to get the wood, then Tom is now in a position to take 1. And again, if you're looking to build a room in your house, you need 5 wood and 2 reed. I think currently only Ankush has got that. Tom needs another wood. But I imagine those wood spots are going to start to look tempting on the left-hand side there. And so if someone takes that wood, they're going to get a food off Tom in place for it. So Danton has played the wood carver by the occupation he's got. He had to pay 2 food for that occupation because he went to the weaker spot. But in each round, you pay 1 wood for what you pay 1 wood less. One of the following: if you build an improvement, a room, or a wooden hut, or a stable, or a fence. So he gets a wood discount, just like Kelda is going to get a stone discount. And more importantly, because Danton has built the tutor, that will score him a point, because the tutor will score 1 point for every person built after it.
You're looking at the comparison between those 2 cards as they're very similar. As we said, the stone cutter is a discount of 1 stone, but that's all improvements, rooms and renovations cost 1 stone left. However, the wood carver can only be used once per round. So, for example, were he to build a stable and take 1 discount, if he then built fences or something else costing wood, he would not get that discount again in that same round.
So it's not as strong, but that's probably because wood is way more common, and it would be too strong if you did every round.
Yeah, and stone is a bit of a later game resource. You want some of it. There's a few things on, like I said, some of the ovens ovens cost stone, but there are 2 more cards to be turned over somewhere in those upside down cards that have stone on them. So again, it's a later game resource, and you cannot upgrade your rooms in your house to stone directly. You have to upgrade to clay first and then again to stone. So it does take its time to get through to the stone rooms.
Okay, so I think what you'll find now is that Ankush has gone first. He's taken the first player action while Kelder is thinking. Just talk about through that. There's a couple of things here. What I reckon he's going to do on the next turn, he's got enough food to feed. I imagine what he's going to do is he's going to build a room and hope that the next action is family growth.
Yes.
That would be my bet. I think he can build a room on his next turn. He's going to be the first player, and he will stop other people building a room, which means that he will be the only person who could family growth if it came out in action space 2. With the exception, potentially, if Kelder went to get some wood, Tom could buy one of those woods off her for food, and Tom could build a room this round. So otherwise, if Ankush, I imagine he will build a room because that's what he's getting the read for.
He's still got one more round though, of course, because we've still got that major minor improvement card to turn over. Then we get the possibility of family growth.
So he will build, because he's starting play, he will build a room on round 4.
Yep.
And
he may do if Tom doesn't get that wood. There we go. So now he'll have to dive for it, because otherwise Tom can get it.
Oh, he's not doing it. He's getting clay, so he might be going for one of the improvements. Either a minor one from his hand or a major one from the board. So we take it back. Stuff that wasn't taken potentially increases. So if you look at how many sheep,
no one wants those sheep at the moment. They do tend to pile up when it comes out as the first card.
Yeah, you can't fit them in at the moment. If you take the sheep, you can only keep one, because no one's got any ovens. You can't turn it into food or anything.
No, see, this is where I would like. If I see the sheep come up early, I usually tend to try and pile myself up a bunch of clay to try and get one of the major improvements. This major improvement's come out quite late, so at that point, if I was looking at that pile of sheep, I'd be looking to stash up some clay, take start player, grab that major improvement, and hopefully if I've got 4 clay, I can get the slightly better sort of return of it's the same for sheep, but it gives you a better amount of food from your boar and from your cattle as well. So I'd be looking to get that, and then immediately, unfortunately poor sheep, churn them into food straight away, because that's going to feed, well at the moment with only 2 people, that's more food than I need, because that's 6 food from 3 sheep there.
All right, so Ankush is actually just buying one of the places to cook his food.
Yeah, there's
I don't know which one is that. One of the ovens of some sort of the cooking
cheapest
herb.
one.
Is it a fireplace?
I can't remember the name on it, but I know he can convert his animals with that one, as well as I believe his grain.
So Tom could have done this last turn. So Tom's going to get the first room to his house.
Yep.
He's going to get a third room, and room screw points into the game if they've been upgraded, and you can upgrade them all in one go for no extra cost effectively. So if you can build the rooms first and then upgrade them, it is the same as it's a bit easier to do than upgrading them and then building them, because then they're harder to build. You have to spend different resources to build them.
Yes, you do, and there tends to be more wood coming into the game, because if you look at the spaces, there's 2 spaces at the moment that have clay on them, whereas there's 3 for wood. So you want to build a wood room rather than build a clay room.
Currently there's only one way to get stone as well. So.
Yes, and it's worth noting as well with Ankush's strategy that he's got the axe in play now. So a few turns ago, he's put in the minor improvement. This is a fantastic card, actually. It's one that if I'd have seen the draft, I know I would have grabbed straight away.
What does the axe do?
Whenever you add a room to your wooden hut, you only play 2 wood and 2 reed. So he doesn't have to pay that 5 wood when he puts another room in. So if he can make use of that twice maybe before he then upgrades to clay,
so the
that's
normal
a good
cost
return.
is 5 wood and 2 reed.
5 wood, 2 reed. So he gets a discount, only has to pay 2 wood.
Yeah.
But he still has to pay the 2 reed. So to do 2 rooms in one go, he's going to need 4 reed, which is quite a hefty stack of reed at this stage.
But it saves him an action if he can get that reed through other means. It saves him an action by when he goes to build the room, he builds 2 at once.
Yeah.
So we're back to Ankush. They've all had 1 turn. Danton took some stone and some reed. So Danton has his 2 reed now. I'm not sure how much wood he's got. It doesn't look like he's got 5 wood. So his second turn might be to get some wood. I'm not sure he's got enough food, you know.
At the moment, I can see 1 for Danton. There's quite a stack over there for Ankush. Ankush looks absolutely fine.
Kelder's got 6,
plenty.
because Tom's been paying them for food.
Tom's been spending it. So. But of course, you look at Ankush, he's got a stack of food, but he's also got some way of converting now. So if he grabs those sheep, that's a pretty good return.
He can put 1 in his house and eat the rest.
Yep.
So harvest, we've not talked about harvest properly. Yep. So at the end of this round, there will be a feeding phase, which is 3 bits. First thing first is you harvest. So basically, any of your ploughed fields that have had resources growing on them. So he's going to put 1 sheep there, and then go a big nom 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 nom.
6 food for that. He's done exactly what I would have done.
So he can now ignore food for a while.
Yep.
He's got 3 rounds left. He's got enough to feed his people for this round and the next round, and then part of the round after, assuming he doesn't grow too many people.
That's starting player there.
Yeah, so that's... Oh, she's played...
She's got an interesting minor improvement there. So some of the minor improvement cards give you a benefit, but then after you've used it, you must pass them to the next player around the table, so moving clockwise.
So this one, you gain some wood, but you pass it to someone else. So Kelda's gained some wood, and she's passed it, and now everyone knows that Tom has a card that will gain him 3 wood. But more importantly, Kelda's taken the start player token. So she's got some wood. Has she got 2 reed? It looks like she has got 2
Yes, it
reed.
looks like she might have 2 reed there. It looks as if she's pretty good for building another room. Now, she hasn't got the turn to do it, but if she's looking around the table, I'd be noticing the fact that Ankush has got enough to pay for it with his discount, so I'd be grabbing starting player to try and beat him out to that. But, of course, if our first card to turn over next round is family growth, and the only person who's currently got the space for it looks like Tom down in the right-hand corner.
I think the issue with Tom is he's struggling for food. Has he got any way of making food? He's only got 2 food, hasn't he?
At the moment, I can only see 2 food. Has he run out of action?
Yeah, he hasn't got any grain. He hasn't got his wood buyer or his corn scoop don't give him any access to food. So I wonder if he's actually going to starve.
Could he possibly be starving? Yes, he
Yeah.
hasn't got any more actions, and if he takes animals, he can't. It'd be
So-
interesting to see. Well, he's paid 2.
It's 2 food per person.
Yeah,
so
it
Danton
looks like
and
he's
Tom are begging. Oh, he's begging twice.
Yep.
Is Danton begging as well, or did he have enough food?
I don't see a begging card in front of him.
You want to pass me my peeps first, please?
Okay, maybe he had enough food.
Maybe he had
we
the 4
didn't.
food.
Maybe we
I'm not
didn't
sure what
see.
his second move was actually.
He got some wood, I think.
Okay.
So he might have had enough food. We couldn't quite see it in the
Yeah.
pile there.
I think there could well have been some stacked up actually. It looked like 1, didn't it? But I assume he had a stack there.
Okay, what action card has come out on turn 5 then?
So at the top there, it's just the 1 stone. So again, if no one takes it, there'll be 2 stone next turn, and it'll build up. So we're still looking for that family growth card to come up. So it's kind of bad news for Tom. He presumably wanted it to come up quickly because he's the only one that can take it, and then he gets another one. Oh no, of course Kelda can take it now. She's got her room too. She's just built, but it might be a bit of a race. Yep, that's where I thought he might go. So he's now going to take the start player.
Yeah, and he's
Oh.
also played an improvement as well. So we're just going to find out which one that is for you. I
Yep,
believe that's
so-
the plane. So whenever you turn 1 wood into food using the joinery, which is one of the buildings you could buy,
Yep.
sawmill or cabinet maker, you receive 1 additional food. You can choose instead to turn a second wood into exactly 2 food. So if you can generate a lot of wood, you can gain food from it, and more importantly, Tom can use food to buy wood. So
Yep.
he can potentially has a little engine. It's a slow engine because it's a very he has to do it lots of times to kind of gain the benefit. But basically, if he has some wood and some food, he can. When someone else takes wood, he can buy wood off them. And when he uses one of those actions, like the joinery, sawmill, cabinet maker, he gains an extra food, and then he can trade in one of his wood for 2 food. But that wood is only costing 1 food to buy. So it's a
Bit of an
slow.
upgrade.
Yeah, it's a slow engine he's got. But he can now do that. So if he can build the joinery, which is what he's potentially saving his clay up for, he can use that ability and churn out his food engine and hopefully not have to beg again for the rest of the game.
Yeah, it's one of the biggest things in Agricola is making sure you've got cards that chain together or give you double bonuses. So say if you play on this space, you get a bonus, and then you've got 2 cards saying that, you're going to get a double bonus every time you play there. So it's something to watch out for when other players do. Think, do I need to be blocking this if I'm looking to compete over a couple of points towards the end?
So if we're looking at how things are going then, so Ankush has got the village elder and 2 improvements. So he's kind of doing what he said he was going to do as soon as he played the elder. Kelda has a 3rd room in her house. Tom has a 3rd room, but he's got some beggar tokens, but he's possibly got the best engine for gaining food.
Yeah.
Although Ankush has got the most food.
And again,
Danton-
Ankush can turn his sheep into food with that major improvement.
Yeah, so more importantly, we're going to see family growth coming up. And more importantly, we also need, Kelda needs to get enough food so she can take advantage of that fence builder she's got as well, because the fence builder in 2 rounds will be coming to build 4 fences, and she needs 2 food for that. Tom's going to get some food so he can start his engine off. He can now start buying wood off people. He can use the joinery. I imagine his next action might be to build the joinery. Is that one of the...
That's one of the major improvement cards, yes, on the right-hand side at the moment.
So Ankush is taking the vegetable. To use that, he can just eat it, I think, for one food, effectively, in the feeding phase. Is that right?
Yeah, it looks like he might have played a card as well to go with it, so that might be where the vegetables come in. Has he got a second
He's played one
occupation there?
occupation.
Yeah, we'll
Okay.
try and find which one that is for you.
In the square.
Yes. What does it say? Veg read.
Yes, that is correct.
And Danton has played one as well, I'm afraid. So, yeah. Okay, so what's happened is he's paid a big stack of resources. You can see on the card that Ankush just played, he's played the grocer. Now the grocer has, from top to bottom, a reed, a grain, a stone, a clay, a wood, a reed, apologies, a vegetable, and lots of other stuff that's going to go down there. At any point for one food, he can buy the top item. So in that pile there are 2 reeds. He can, in theory, spend all his food to buy the 2 reeds he needs and then go and build 2 rooms in his house, should he want to do that. But that is an extra person he's got in his arsenal. And Danton has played an extra person as well. Danton has played, give me a sec, when we find out which card that would be. The seasonal worker. Whenever you do the day labourer action, you may receive 1 grain. And from round 6, you can choose to receive 1 vegetable instead. So Danton now has slightly more access to food if he takes the day labour action, which I believe is one of the ones. It's the bottom printed one on the board, which just gets you 2 food, I believe.
Yes, it is.
It also gets you extra stuff. In this case, he can either have a 3rd food, or after round 6, he can get
Oh no,
1
grain.
vegetable.
So he gets 2 food and a grain, or he can choose to have 2 food and a vegetable instead of the grain from round 6 onwards.
All right. Do you know what action's on round 7 yet?
So
Family
it's
growth.
Family growth.
So round 7 is family growth. It hasn't come up yet. They think that is renovation. Renovation allows you to, is it and or, you can renovate your house. That's changed from wood to clay or clay to stone.
Yeah.
By paying some stuff, some clay or some stone, depending on how many rooms you've got potentially. And then also build an improvement. Is it major or minor?
Major or minor, yes. So it gives you an access to some of the cards on the right. So of course you've got 1 space on the board already that is major or minor. But if you can do renovation and take your major in 1 turn, you're being very action efficient. Now at this point, I would be wondering, yep, he's already done it. Tom's gone straight for the starting player space, guaranteeing him to grab the family growth.
Yes, the weird thing is he was already first.
But someone else could take it from him, and he doesn't want to be last onto it. You want to be first or second onto that family growth to get those extra actions in.
Yeah.
In fact, did he take first player? He may have even taken first player the previous time as
He
well.
took first
So
player the previous
he's
turn.
definitely shooting for that family growth.
Now he's playing. Not only is he taking first player, not only is he taking first player, he's build an improvement. Is
Yeah,
it the
minor improvement there from Tom.
Punnel? I remember that picture. It's the punner. Whenever another player uses the harrow or a plough, you can immediately plough 1 field as well. So basically, if another player goes and ploughs some fields, you can kind of copy it. But it doesn't count if you do it yourself. It costs him 1 wood to do that. It is an improvement, so he's got a few improvements out. In fact, he's got 3 improvements out. So currently, has he got more improvements than Ankush, who's got 2?
Ankush has only got 1. 2, yes.
2,
He's got a
'cause
major and a minor, so 2 versus 3. So Ankush needs to keep an eye on that towards the end of the game.
Danton has built a 3rd room to his house.
Yeah. So now
Danton,
he's got space.
Yeah, and Kelder's got space. But I wonder if Ankush is going to get the 2 read he needs, so when he builds a room, he can build 2 at once.
Possibly. At the moment, I would say Danton's in an excellent position because we know that Tom's taken the starting player, therefore we assume he will take family growth, meaning that Danton can then take starting player himself and guarantee him first to go on the family growth, the second one. And as I said, you want to be one of the first 2 people on that. If you're 3rd or 4th on that, of course, every round you delay, that's 1 less turn that you're taking.
Yeah. So I've noticed that this game is probably the game where the starting player changes the most aggressively.
Yeah.
It's so important to go first in some of these spots. It's so important to get the best action, to get the most wood. If you desperately need sheep for whatever reason and you're not going first, there's no guarantee you're going to get it.
No, it's very interesting, and it's very difficult sometimes when you take starting player. Of course, if you're taking it with intent, as we believe Tom is for family growth, you know what you're doing. But if you take starting player almost just it's the best available move, it's very hard sometimes to resist those very large stacks of resources that are sitting in front of you. But if they're not helpful long term, you do have to resist that giant stack of wood or clay if, for example, there's a very cheap occupation that you could be playing instead.
I think that is the field watchman. I think it is whenever you...
It looks like it's got read on it.
yeah, I think it's whenever you take a grain, you can also plough a field. So that is Ankush's third
Yep.
person. So when Ankush, so basically if Ankush takes grain, he can plough a field, and then in theory, it's easy for him to sow that grain in there. Tom is playing occupation as well. And Tom is playing, again, there's hundreds and hundreds of these. He's playing the layabout. That sounds like a fantastic card. Once you've played this card, you may not take part in the next harvest.
You also do not need to feed your family during the harvest.
Okay,
so given last time he was in starvation, he certainly doesn't need to focus on his food gain now.
So
He
this is
misses
actually
out on it.
a good tactical thing. He's
Yeah.
begged, so he's not really fed. He's choosing not to take part in the harvest. He's not going to feed again. And he's actually going to have 3 people, isn't he? Because if he takes the family growth
Yep.
action, he will have 3 people.
And it will be a 2 cost because he will be... Oh no, 1 cost. So he would normally have to play 5 food at the end of this, but thanks to that card, he hasn't got to worry about that.
Doesn't have to pay any food.
No.
But now, so if you do play that card in certain other situations, it would also mean your fields wouldn't grow and your animals
Yeah.
wouldn't reproduce. So in the harvest, if you've got animals, as long as you've got 2 or more animals, you get an extra one.
Yep.
So he would take part in. He wouldn't take part in that, but at the moment he's played it at the most beneficial time to him.
Yeah. He's set that up, hasn't he, to make sure that he doesn't lose out. 'Cause
Now-
he hasn't got any grain, he hasn't got any vegetables, nothing ploughed, so he's not going to lose out on anything else. No animals.
So Ankush's field watchman has allowed him to not only get the grain, but plough a field as well. And the ploughing field is good because it covers up one of the spaces on your board, and it gives the opportunity to kind of plant some vegetables and grain, and that will grow. And then basically, at the end of every harvest, you kind of get that back 2 or 3-fold.
He's timed it out nicely as well because he's now got the grain, so if at some point in the next action time he's able to then sow that, it will immediately produce in the harvest, which will be after the end of the next round of placing.
So on his next action, he could. I mean, I imagine he's looking to. He doesn't need food. I imagine he's looking to build another room to his house at some point. I wonder if he's still waiting to get to.
He could try to double it, couldn't he?
The 4 read, yeah.
Well, if he knows he's
there's
not
2
getting-
read on the spot. On the read spot, there's 2
Yeah.
read. There's
3
3
read now.
So I think
yeah.
he'll take that.
So he'll probably shoot for that. He's also got 1 in his stack, remember. So
He
what's
could
he got?
take
1
that
on his
for 1
board, 1 on
food,
the
yeah.
stack, 3 there. Well, we're pretty sure we know what Tom's going to be up to in a moment.
And then you think
I would
Danton's gonna take
assume,
first
yeah,
player?
I would assume Danton would go first player to get the next family.
Weirdly,
growth,
because there's a
but-
lot of stuff on some of these spots, you know.
Again, it's that funny thing where you have to think, oh, that pile looks really tempting, but actually, if I could take that pile in 2 goes, maybe I'm better having the person just in case there's a nice stack there next time. So it looks like the stack's gotten too big, so they're just replacing some of these with multiplier cards.
Yeah, there's not enough wood in the game. It looks like they've all got
No,
too much.
there's never
in
enough
front
wood. Not at this stage in the game. I wonder where he's going. Yeah, there we go.
of them. So you put a second
growth.
meeple or worker on top of it, and you do that so that you remember that one only costs you 1 food, not 2.
Take 1 grain.
So along with that, he gets to play a minor improvement, so we'll just have a look through and work out which one that is.
Yeah, that family growth action is very powerful, isn't it?
So it looks like it's the grain cart there, played by Thomas's minor improvement.
Yeah, now the grain cart needed 2 occupations to play, so he had to have his layabout and his wood buyer already, but whenever you take 1 grain action space, you receive 2 additional grains. So now,
With his corn scoop, that matches up nicely, doesn't it?
yeah, so whenever he takes to take 1 grain, his corn scoop will give him an extra 1, and his grain cart will give him 2 extra ones. So whenever he takes grain, he will take 4 grain instead.
Yep.
And he's got 3 people. Now you'll notice that
There we go.
Ankush... You're very good, Emily. Now you'll notice that Ankush has also got an action that benefits from the take 1 grain space. So there might be a chance that Scott and Ankush are going to be... Not Scott, apologies, Tom. Tom and Ankush are going to be fighting for that take 1 grain space, potentially because both of them have improved actions when they do it.
Yes. I suppose the advantage Ankush has got on that one is that he knows that Tom's kind of played for family growth. Now it looks like with taking starting player, Danton's also played. Is it the chicken coop there?
It is, yeah. That's quite expensive because it costs 2 wood or 2 clay and a reed.
So 2 wood's not too bad for a cost for it, sort of early in the game. So place 1 food on the next 8 remaining round spaces. At the start of these rounds, you'll receive the food. So
Okay. And that's also worth a point, I believe.
It is 1 point at the end of the game. So if we look at what we've done, so we placed it on the neck. So we haven't got 8 remaining, we've got 7 remaining. So he's not quite optimised it, but 7's still pretty good. So that's basically one free person for the next 3 harvests.
It is, yeah. So basically, yeah, that's very
and then
good for
half
Danton.
of one on the last.
Get to make food. He will have an extra person, not this round, but next round as well, because he will take the family growth space.
So it's interesting. So Ankush has gone for wood. So, of course, he didn't have enough wood because we think he might be doing that double build, don't we?
Yeah.
But he still doesn't have the reed. But I guess the reed, at least he's got a second one on the top of the stack.
Is it reed you only need 2 of, and you need...
You need 2 reed and 5 wood to
Yeah,
expand,
but
but he only needs 2 and 2.
Yeah, do you need... So if you want to do it twice, do you need extra reed and extra wood?
Yes.
Okay.
So all that card does is reduce the cost of it. So instead of being 5 wood, 2 reed, it's 2 wood, 2 reed. So if he wants to double up, he needs 4 wood and 4 reed. It was quite a lot of reed to get, actually.
Who do you think's in good position at the moment?
I'd say it's a bit funny because normally I'd say, oh, Tom's in a good position because, again, he's the first person that hit family growth, but he did spend a lot of time taking start player to try and get it. So the fact that it came up 3rd was bad for him. And, of course, he's got those begging cards there. But again, he's got, having taken that start player action a lot, he has got a lot of nice little minor improvements there. I'd say Danton's also in a strong position because he's going to be second onto that family growth. It just depends what he does with some of his other moods. He's got a little bit of a stone going there, and he has also played sort of a few occupations. Ankush has got a pretty good food engine going. We've seen that he's just got a pretty decent stack of food constantly, again, because he's got that major improvement and then that big stack of resources he can buy into with that spare food, so that pairs up quite nicely. Looking at Kelda's sort of tried to do, I think she's tried to vary her strategy a little bit. She's got those fences coming up, which has given her a nice little field, and given at the moment over 1 animal isn't really useful to anyone except Ankush. So if she can get some animals in there, then she could possibly, well, she hasn't got the space at the moment
She
without
can put 1
the
in
shed
a
to breed.
house,
Yeah,
and
she
then
could put
2
one
in the field.
Yeah, and then if she was to gain a major improvement, she could then get rid of 1 and then gain it again with the breeding, as long as they're the same.
All right, she's not going to struggle to feed.
No.
Tom doesn't need to feed. Danton is...
Difficult.
he's
Can't
only
tell
got-
if
he's
that's
got 1
one.
food and 1 vegetable, I think.
It's 1, yeah. So it looks
so
like the only
how's
person for
how's
food
Danton's going to
is...
feed? Has he got anything that says...
No, he's got bonuses for...
He gets food from the
sowing.
chicken coop from future rounds, but that won't help
He
him
does.
feed
It
in
doesn't
this
help
time.
him for this round, so he looks like he needs to gain food in some way.
Well, he's got 1 more action. Maybe you can go to... Oh, if he goes to the day labourer, does he get extra food?
Let's have a look. Yes, so whenever he goes to day labour, he receives 1 additional grain, not 1 additional
But you
food,
can
but it's
eat
still
grain.
a good space
Can you eat
for him
grain
to go to.
or vegetables?
That's
Because
what
he's
he
got a
used to convert.
he's got a vegetable.
He has got a vegetable,
Can you just
yes.
eat that for 1 food?
Oh, I'm not sure, actually.
I think you can,
I
you
think
know.
so.
Give me a sec, see if we can find out for you. Off the top of my head, I'm not completely sure.
Yes, I know that the major improvements increase the value of them.
Yeah, I imagine you could eat
Yeah,
a
it should be
vegetable
1
without
for
cooking
1.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think so. I think
but not the animals.
not the no. You need to be able to cook the animals. You
Yeah.
can't eat the animals without like an oven or a fireplace. Which Ankush has got 1, so he can eat sheep. He's still got 7 food as Ankush, and he only needs 4 for the end of this phase.
But remember that big stack there's got to be bought with 1 food at a time whenever he wants, so he needs that extra food to eat through that big pile of resources.
Yeah, did you hear a big sigh? I heard a big sigh. That must be Tom because he's taking his time. If you look at the time bank at the moment, surprisingly, I haven't actually seen Kelda sitting there thinking for much, but she's actually taking the most time.
She has. She's still got plenty left, though. I don't think... We haven't had anybody so far time out in the tournament, so it's a good time. But again, it does put a little bit of pressure on you to not overthink things and just sort of push on a little bit.
Now, they're long games, but it's nice that they don't drag on too long. You know that that people are being timed, and you feel like you're letting people down if you're timing out.
Yeah, definitely.
That is a lot of clay.
That is a massive stack of clay. I wonder... Well, he doesn't need to feed this time.
He doesn't know.
If he's
and he's
got...
going to have 3 people
Let's
next
see
time.
how he's organising it.
I wonder if he can build...
3, 4, 5, 6, 7...
I'm going to commend Tom at putting them flat.
Yes,
so that we
very
can
much
see
like that.
so we can see how much. When they do their feeding in a second, we're going to have a shot of the players. We haven't actually seen the players yet, so we're going to have an outside view of the players. So potentially in a couple of minutes' time, we can see the players deep in thought around the table. We're going to have a look at Tom because I don't think I know who Tom is. I don't think I've met Tom before.
You'll notice it when you see his shirt. He's got a lovely Hawaiian shirt on today.
Oh, I love Hawaiian
It's
shirts.
fantastic.
I think they're great. So Ankush has built 2 rooms.
As we thought, yeah. There goes
So
the
he had
tours.
stuff.
He's eaten into that big stack, look, to get the reed that he was missing.
Yeah, now, has he got enough? Oh, because he can always cook his sheep.
Yes.
So you can always cook
the
his sheep.
sheep's worth 2. How much food's he got left
He's got a vegetable and a grain.
Okay.
So I think
And
he
he's
can.
still on 2 people, so yeah,
I
he's
think
safe
he
at the
can.
moment.
I think he can technically do that, and in theory, if he can get control of the first player or something like that, he can take family growth. Now the
He
danger
should be
is,
third onto it, yes. With
yeah,
the
the
same
danger is
fault,
because
so-
what's going to happen? Danton's going to take it first.
Yep.
Ankush will take start player because if he doesn't, Kelder will take start player.
Yes.
And Kelder will beat him to it.
Unfortunately for Kelder, that's not gone well for her with Tom shooting for the start player all
Twice,
of the time.
yeah. It's kept
She
her out
didn't have
of it.
any chance though, did she? He jumped on it straight away, I think.
Yeah. Well, the only chance is for her to have done that.
Yeah.
The round before that he took, I mean, because he took it twice, so if she'd have beaten him the first time, she could have done what he did.
Yeah.
And she did have the room, so did he. I think that's why he was desperate to keep it, because he knew there were other people in position to take advantage of the family growth.
Yeah.
So Ankush has just walked away from the table at the moment. It is Kelder's turn. She's decided what to do. She's she's going last again in this round, and it's not great going last in this game, is it?
No, she'll get third in the next round, but again, playing quite late is not fantastic.
She could take the sheep, but she wouldn't benefit from them. She couldn't turn them into food, and
Nope.
she wouldn't gain in the harvest. Thank you very much, Sean, who's just shifted the table a bit so it's central. She wouldn't gain in the harvest.
No, she'd
because-
just get 1 pet, and then the other 2 would be discarded. So she can't, because she hasn't got a major improvement at the moment.
No, she's got a fence.
Oh yes, you're right. She
She
can
can put them in the fence,
2
and
in
she
the
can
fence.
one in the
Yes,
house,
you're right.
but in the harvest, in the breeding phase, she wouldn't gain the extra sheep she'd get for having 2 or more sheep.
No,
'cause she wouldn't be able to fit them
hasn't
in.
got the space.
I generally usually go down a animal strategy.
That's my favourite as well, actually.
Yeah, it feels like it never works.
I usually try and get that 4 clay and then shoot for the
Now
slightly
Tom's going
better.
to steal a wood. Is he going to steal a wood? He's thinking about it. He touched his food there, thinking he might steal it.
He doesn't need that food, does he, for this?
He is going to do that. He's going to steal
he
one.
doesn't need the food.
Correct. He will need to start finding a way to get food. So I
He's
think.
got a little strategy, hasn't
can he
he?
buy the
'Cause he's-
joinery? I think he'll buy the joinery, and then he'll start to be able to turn his wood into food.
Yes, that's a nice little engine for him, isn't it, when he gets that going? Because he's got a few cards there that chain
So
together.
they're feeding now, I think. I know.
Are they harvesting, perhaps? There's not really any harvesting to do. I don't think anyone's got multiple animals.
So Ankush has eaten his sheep to make 2
Yeah.
food. And it looks like they're harvesting. We can potentially have a look at the players as they're doing that. If anyone fails to feed, we'll see a begging card. But if we can have a look away from the table just to see the players we've got competing in this Agricola final table. The medalists may come from other tables, but the gold medalists will definitely come from this particular one. Is Danton feeding?
I haven't seen.
Because I didn't see him feed
No, I
last time.
haven't
Is
seen
he?
him yet.
Who's stopped like?
I don't know. I don't know if he.
I'm not sure if he did.
He did have a vegetable. I don't know where that's gone. I wonder if he's got something to make use of his vegetables. He's not taking any begging cards, so maybe I've just missed something. I couldn't work out how he's fed again.
Did he take day labourer last round, perhaps? He gets 2
I
food
don't
from that and then
know.
a grain. But I don't see it. He
I
hasn't
don't
got a
know- I
grain though,
don't
so he
know.
can't have unless he fed the
Yeah, he
grain.
could have eaten the grain, yeah.
But I
Maybe
wouldn't
he
have
did
eaten
that.
the grain before I'd have eaten the food, to be honest with you.
He got
He could
one of
have
the
just
food
done.
off. He got one of the food off the action space.
Yes, so
I
he
should
only
be
had
able-
1 food left over from the feeding phase.
He is family growthing. He's starting to play. I
Unsurprisingly.
think that's predictable. Kelder will get to do it next. If she doesn't, then Ankush can, in theory, do it twice in a row.
Ankush is going to do it next.
Next turn, and then if Kelder
Yeah.
doesn't take start player, Ankush will do it twice.
Yes.
So Ankush played a minor improvement. He's played
Fruit
a
tree, it
tree.
looks
No, the
like.
fruit
Yeah.
tree
We
allows
mentioned
him
earlier.
to put 1 food. He's going to do exactly the same at Danton did,
Yep.
and he's put 1 food on each
Rounds
remaining.
8 through to 14.
Yeah, which will be each remaining outplace. And can you see the way they've put the food on the back of the cards there? The food in the bottom left, anything in the bottom left is Danton's, anything in the top left is Ankush's, and I think Kelder should have put her fences in the top right.
Yeah, I think for the fences, because they're her colour, it's
Yeah, I
easier
mean-
to spot, isn't it?
Yeah, true. Currently, who is winning Anchorsh's Village Elder Prize? I think it's probably Tom, isn't it? He's got 4 improvements.
I see 4 for Tom.
Danton's got 3, Anchor's got 3, and Kelda hasn't got any, has she? Because she hasn't really taken the start player.
But again, she hasn't had the chance to take starting player, has she?
She has. She's passed it up, and she, for the last 4 rounds, she hasn't.
Yeah. She could have taken the minor or major improvement, but I think she's always had other options. Like, she's got a massive stack of wood now, so at least she's got a lot of potential. Looks like she's just taken some stone. So again, there was this pile of stone there.
I wonder if she's going to build a improvement of some sort.
Yes.
So Tom's taking the reed. He's got a big...
4 reed.
Do you think he's going to be turning his wood huts into clay huts?
Yeah, it looks like a clay hut. Although he's got enough reed to build a room before he does it. He's just missing one wood. However, remember, he can use food to buy wood if he gets some food somehow.
He hasn't got any food.
He would need to use his chain then, wouldn't he? He'd have to use something that gives him food first.
Yeah. So he's undoing his action, Danton. He was thinking about taking...
He looked like he was going to buy the well.
Yeah, and the well's just points.
Does he not have the reed for it? I don't think. He's got the stone for that card, but there's something else. It's stone and something, perhaps not the wood, because it looks like all that Danton's got is stone at the moment.
I thought it was just stone, but maybe he just wants to do something else first. He's taken some wood, and Tom can't afford to buy it off Anchorage. Anchorage's just got... lots of sheep. He's turned the sheep into food again.
Yep, poor sheep.
Nom 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 nom.
Well, at least there's still a boar hanging around for Kelda to put in her field if she wants to, in her little pasture.
I imagine her. I imagine her strategy is now not to go down the farms. I think she would have taken the sheep last time. If that's what she wanted to do, she took wood instead. I think.
Yeah, she's got no clay, and all of the major improvements that allow you to turn the animals into food require clay to purchase, and she hasn't really been beelining for the clay, and we can tell there's been a supply of it because I can see at least 6 on that stacked card to the left there.
Now we're, in theory, this is the halfway point of the game. We have done through 7 rounds. We're on round 8, and there are only 14, but you will see that although it feels like they've played pretty fast actually, I think it will start to slow down just in terms of how long a round takes, not necessarily their actions. They're going to start to get more actions each per round. Yep,
family growth is going to increase the number of actions that can be taken each turn, so that's going to extend the game a little bit.
And because Tom went last, but he has more meeples, he's actually going to get 2 actions in a row. So I wonder if we see him build the joinery,
possibly,
and maybe either renovate or build another room if you can do 1 or 2 of those things.
Yeah.
He could just get some wood and then build 2 more rooms if he wanted to. But
he could also do this the other way around. So if he renovates first, that's going to cost him 3 clay and 2 reed, and then to build another room he would have to pay 5 clay and
2 reed.
Yeah,
and
so
then he
sorry, 3 clay and 1 reed for the upgrade, and then 5 clay and 2 reed for the new room.
So Kelda's built the well, and I think the well does something similar to what the other improvements have been built, and she's put food on.
Yeah, it's a gain food card.
Yeah, she's put food in the next 5 rounds, so she's going to get food at the start of every round. The only person who's not getting food is Tom, so Tom needs to get his engine going, his engine involving trading wood and stealing off other people and using the joinery to churn it back into food going. Tom has started off with a bit of a disadvantage because he's lost 6 points in previous rounds. So he's got to be very careful that he doesn't, lose anything more, because it's 6 points is a lot at the end of the game, isn't it?
Mm. Again, the maximum you can really score on anything from the general scoring, things such as your vegetables, your grain, and your animals and things like that, is a maximum of 4, and it takes quite a lot of effort to get up to the 4 actually. So 6 points would be a big hit.
Yeah, I mean, the tutor is one of the strongest individual cards. It's one of the only cards that can score you more than like 4 or 5 points.
Yeah, it's getting down to 3 at the moment. At least he's got 3 bonus points.
Yeah, so Danton's got 3 from the tutor at the moment. Most of the cards cap out, as Emily said, at 4. Some of the buildings you can build get up to 5 points maybe, but a lot of the buildings, the major improvements are 2, 3 or 4 points. So if you can build a few of those, you can get some points, but you need to build quite a lot, and each one needs like a big portion of stone or clay or wood to build. And some of them you need to be able to return a different building, don't you?
Yeah, there's some that
to build a hearth, you need to return a fireplace or something like that.
I think we spotted what we missed with Danton earlier with regard to food, because it looks like he's got, I think it's because he's covered up the tutor a little bit. I thought he was only on
right,
3.
okay.
So actually he must have in the previous round before, I think the harvest phase, played the Schnapps distillery.
What's he
in
do?
the feeding phase of each harvest, you can convert up to 1 vegetable to 5 food. So that must be how he was feeding, because you're right, you said he used a vegetable.
He
we
did,
couldn't get the numbers to work, could
Okay,
we?
Danton,
That's
apologies for doubting your skill. We just did not see that, so I know you've watched my streams before, and again, I apologise. All right, so this is the take grain action. So Tom's take grain action, he gets 4 grain from that. He gets another action as well, because he's got his last disc, and he's going to renovate. So we knew that was happening. He's renovating to clay, like you said he would. It costs him 9 clay, is it? And 3 and 2 reed?
To renovate them up, it's 1 clay per room and then 1 reed total. So actually, it's only 3 clay and 1 reed.
But he's also building an improvement.
Yes, because of course, with that renovation, he can also take a minor or a major improvement, which again is where a lot of his clay might go. So he's playing. That looks like in his hand the 3 clay and the 1 reed for the build.
Yeah.
From the looks of things, he's taken this the same build, the same major improvement that Ankush has got, which allows him to convert animals and vegetables into food for him. So
now he has
that's what he was
grain
missing,
as well,
wasn't
hasn't
it?
he? So he can start baking bread if he needs to.
It does have when he bakes bread, he can also sort of get a bonus out of his grain as well. And at any point, he can turn those animals into food. Well, if he gets them.
So Ankush has done that.
Ankush family growth and have they just not
no,
received? I don't think they've retrieved their pieces.
No,
perhaps?
I don't think Tom's retrieved his take grain.
Hasn't retrieved his take grain.
But Ankush's family growth. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah,
she's taking
that's
back.
it.
So Kelda should probably take.
Starting player.
Assume she's going to take starting player, because if she doesn't, Ankush will get the next family
Someone
growth.
else may well take it actually. If I was sitting, who's most likely to do it? Ankush because he's got the room, or possibly Tom because he's got the potential to build the room this time.
Yeah, Tom
So
would
she
need
has
to build the
done-
room and then take start player. So she's taken it anyway, which is probably right.
Yep, and minor improvement card.
Yeah, but Ankush has also built one as well. So this is where it starts to get confusing. Ankush is the forest pasture. He needed to have 3 occupations to play it, and it's worth a point. This card can hold an unlimited number of wild boar. So basically, he
Wild
can
boar
start
pen.
putting wild boar. Now, there's 2 wild boar there. If he gets the wild boar, they're going to breed 1, 2, 3, 4 times. He will finish the game with 6 wild boar. So if he manages to get the 2 wild
now.
boar, he will get 3 points at the end of the game if he finishes with 5 or 6 of them. So I think he's probably going to do that on his next action.
It then looks considerable for him to take 1 extra boar at some point with an action if it gives, because that's moving from the 6 wild boar up into 7 wild boar moves you from 3 points to 4 points. So towards the end of the game, if you're shooting for a 1-point move, that could be something to look at.
So Kelda's occupation, Kelda's improvement needed 2 wood and 2 occupations already in play, which she had. And she said, place 1 stone in each remaining even-numbered round space. At the start of these rounds, you receive stone. Now, stone is used to buy the things in the game that need the most, they're worth the most points. So some of the improvements need stone, and to build to a stone house needs stone.
You
obviously.
need stone as well, yes.
Now, why would you bother upgrading your houses? Ankush took the boar, by the way, so he's got on his forest pasture, he's got some boar, and they're just going to be, that's effectively,
Sitting there.
yeah.
But remember, Kelda, with that minor improvement she's displayed, as you said, which she's going to gain the stone for, she's also got the stone cutter. So all of her improvements, rooms and renovations cost 1 stone less. So actually that's a pretty good turnover for stone for her. She's not going to need as much to buy those expensive cards, and she's going to gain some now.
Yeah. So at the end of the game, if you have clay rooms, they're worth 3 points each. Is that right?
It is. So for clay rooms at the end of the game are worth 1 per hut room, and if you upgrade them into a stone house room, they're worth 2 points. If you keep them at wood, you don't do any upgrading, they're not worth any points.
Now your people are worth points. Your people are worth 3
points each, yes.
So if you have 5 people in a game, it's 15 points. If
Yep.
you have 5 people in stone houses with their room in each, that is 25 points.
Yeah.
And given a winning score is 50, if you can get to that point, you've done very well.
Yes, you've just got to watch out for those negative points. But again, losing the odd one here or there is not so bad if you've managed to get a big 25-pointer out of your rooms and people.
So it feels like none of them have done anything with their farm. There's 1 ploughed field, there's 1 fence, and that's about it. They've all got an extra hut so they can get extra people. But because family growth came out late, you're seeing fewer actions in this game than you'd regularly see. If it came out a few rounds earlier, people are going to use it every time until There's no space to use it. But what I will tell you now is that he needs some food, does Tom?
He's gone for that build a new room, as we thought. So he's building a new clay room. So he's paid 5 clay and 2 reeds. So he's going to build 1 new clay room there. Again, now he's got space to family grow. So it's a good job Kel to grab that starting player for next time. Otherwise, she could have seen Ankush or Tom on 4 while she's still sitting on 2 family members.
Now, how is Tom going to feed?
So
he's got 4 grain, but he needs to
doesn't
take...
he have his improvement? Where did he take the joinery?
You don't think he's taken the joinery yet?
No, he has something. He's got an ability to turn wood into food, hasn't he? But it has a requirement on it.
That is the...
Whenever no, not that one.
That is the plane. So whenever you gain wood or...
Whenever you turn wood into food using the joinery, sawmill or cabinet maker, you receive an additional food.
Yeah, so I wonder if he can take an action to bake some bread, because perhaps he's got enough grain and he can potentially turn that into food using the fireplace he's got.
Yeah, he's going to need 6, isn't he? I can't see anywhere that he can pick up 6. It looks like there's 4 sitting in the fishing pool at the moment and 3 on the travelling player space.
All right, so whose turn around? It looks like we're back to, looks like we're on
Danton. It's on Danton, yes, because Danton and Tom have got extra people, so they'll get an additional go after this lap's finished.
So Danton took clay in his first move. He's thinking about what to do. He needs food as well, but he can, if he can get a vegetable, he can...
I was trying to figure out what
Yeah, the vegetable card's just come up now, so the vegetable card is a good option for Danton, because he can
turn it into 5 food.
He can, yes. And at the moment he's on 3 people, so he's got 1 food on his board. That would give him enough food to feed for the next harvest.
So he might need to do that. He's obviously Tom's not going to take that off him. So if you're going to predict what people are going to do, Tom, that action's just not good for Tom. So Danton can save that till his very last action. Tom's unlikely to do you in, because Tom's got to worry about food himself. So I think Danton might do something slightly more beneficial to him. He could potentially do another occupation if he's got some in his hand. He's looking through some cards under the table as to what he can do.
Yeah, it looks like there's been no occupation in this round, so actually it's a very cheap occupation if he wants to put him in place. Equally, he could be looking at something that comes with a minor improvement, possibly because of that 3-point bonus, but it looks like most of the spaces with something else along with the improvement have gone. It looks like there's only the major and minor improvement sitting there, so occupation I think is more likely what he's looking for. You're right there. It's interesting, we've not seen any stables yet actually. Sometimes you see those come out quite early in the game.
Yeah, possibly. I think potentially no one seems to be going down the what we think's the correct strategy of building out animals.
Maybe that's why we're here and they're on the top table.
Oh, I didn't even enter. Oh, he's taken loads of grain.
Bumper grain move there for Tom.
Oh, hang on. Does this mean he can just use 6 grain for food? Yeah, he's just using 6 grain for food.
Yeah, he's using grain.
And he's put that back. Danton's still got an action though. So I think Tom's jumped the gun by feeding now, but he's got enough grain, so yeah. Danton could take a vegetable so he can feed. Is there any other way he can do it? Remember, he can always take the day labour action to take an extra... Oh, can he take a vegetable now from the day labour action using the season worker?
If we're past round 6, then he can take he can take 1 additional vegetable. So actually that's a better move for him, because the day labourer gives him the 2 food and he also gets the vegetable as well, because we're now past round 6. So I wonder if he'll spot that.
I imagine that's in his head. He's potentially got some other actions he can...
I'm curious how he's going to get his food, otherwise I feel like he needs the food, and that seems to be the only way he's going to get 5, getting a vegetable. Or 7, of course, if he takes the day labour space, because he gets the +2.
Yeah. So in the harvest phase, you need to pay 2 food per worker. So everyone's paying... Danton and Tom are playing 3. Danton and Tom are playing 3 workers for 6.
Yeah.
Ankush is playing 3 workers for 5, because one of those is a baby.
Yeah.
And Kelder is playing 2 workers for 4. Danton has taken the day labour that we said, and he's going to trade in 1 food and a vegetable, I think, for his 6 food.
Yep. They're taking their pieces back at the moment.
You're a bit unlucky with when it came. We don't have words. Actually, everyone needs to feed. deciding what's in your schnapps.
It'd be interesting to see how much of a difference it makes for Kelda having family growth so late, because I always feel, like as I said earlier, that third or fourth you're going to struggle because you're losing out on moves here. So it'd be interesting to see what her score's like towards the end, if she's actually perhaps knowing that she's not going to get family growth until last, she's been able to jump in on some of the more optimal moves that other players haven't been able to grab because they've been busy growing their families.
Yeah, so what we're going to try and do for you is we're going to try and get the standings as well. So Kelda has won one and come joint first. Ankush has won one and come joint first. The other two players I'm not quite sure, but if we can get some standings leading into this match, we can tell you potentially how Ankush can go about winning the Pentamind, what sort of scores from table 2 can stop his progress. Clearly, if he wins this, he's fine. If he comes second in this, he's probably fine. And then after that, it's going to be tight. So we're going to try and get some scores for the top 8 players or so, just so we can see how the medals in Agricola will be awarded this year. As we go into the last 5 rounds of the game, we now see the last animal space coming out. It is cattle. That's where you get your cows, is it?
Yep.
And you've got wild boar and sheep are the animals in the game. Or if you play Caverna, which is a similar game, you get donkeys.
Oh, interesting. I believe there's some form of expansion to this game where you get horses included as well.
I don't think this game needs expansions. There's so much going on with it already. So.
It looks like we're all set up, ready to.
Yeah,
to
so we've
fed. There's a lot of wood there in front of, to be honest, most players. There seems to be a lot of a decent supply of resources.
You'll find at the end of the game, they'll have piled up wood during the game. They'll build fences, and they'll build fences over half the field, just so to not lose the points. So gaining wood's fine. Gaining extra stuff's fine.
It's a bit of a balance. You don't want to gain too close to the end and then be stuck not using it because the leftover resources aren't worth anything.
Leftover resources, but leftover vegetables and grain are worth things.
Yes, definitely.
But just the building materials aren't. The animals are worth stuff, so you definitely want at least one of each animal.
One of each is good, yeah.
Otherwise you lose points. But it is a game where you can take a loss in a few fields if you've excelled in others.
Yeah.
So she's family growth. She's built another mind improvement. It is the animal yard, and on this card you can hold up to 2 animals of your choice. They need not be the same type. It is worth 1 point at the end of the game, and it costs her 1 wood. So basically she can start to hold animals there. So in theory she can get a boar and a cow and put them on that thing and score positive points for those animals at the end if she has time. The problem is, if she gets lots of animals, she hasn't actually got means to turn them in. So these are the Pentamind standings. They are flipped on the screen for you there. We're just looking at the top 2 briefly, and we're going to return straight to the game there. Andres Kuska and Ankush Khandelwal are fighting for the medal. I don't think any other player has got an event good enough to come that will close those gaps. You've got 2 Estonians. Georg has actually climbed up since we last saw him, so well done, Georg. I think he did very well in the Texas Hold'em last night, I think it was. I think he might have come first or second in that, so well done to him. It was a 2-session event, but basically there's 5 points in it, and Ankush's score in the 5th place on his scorecard is 88. If he does well at this particular event, he can improve it by the 5 points he needs to win the event, so 94 needed or more. So we're going to see if we can do that. What we're going to try and do for you is get the event scores, so we can see the scores from this event alone. And we're going to go back to the play. The standings for the event in this game. So on the laptop, there's a thing. Yeah, perfect.
This has not been done.
I am going to.
So Tom has taken starting player, so he's going to be Ankush to the next family growth. Tom has another space, so is Ankush, so oops. I've just kicked my co-commentator. I apologise, Emily.
Not a problem. Is that another minor improvement I spot down the corner with Tom there?
Absolutely right, well done.
A carp pond.
So a cart pond, place 1 food on each remaining odd numbered round space. At the start of these rounds, you receive the food. So it's a small income. It is worth a point at the end of the game. It was free to build, but he needed another occupation and 2 improvements. That's otherwise, if you get that out really on, that's a bit too powerful. You get loads of food for that, given it didn't cost anything. Danton has built a fireplace or something. I can't see exactly what he's built, but he's built something which will be worth some points, like stone oven or something. I don't know exactly what that is.
It looks like it's from the oven, so it's from the bottom row. So that's going to be converting some grain or vegetables. It's a bit too difficult for us to see exactly, I'm afraid.
I apologise, I don't know the game well enough to know what he's built, but he's built a building, so potentially that could be used. It's worth points at the end of the game. And remember, there are 3 bonus points for the person or persons who have the most improvements. Now, if you look at how many Tom's got, Tom has 6.
Yep, he's got 5 minor and a major in there.
Yeah, now we've got to hope that for Tom's sake, the beggars don't actually come into play here. If seems like he's doing quite well as long as he can feed.
It does. I suppose with Anguish playing the bonus card very early in the game, it tells everybody else what they're shooting for. If he'd maybe kept it till a bit later on, then it gives him less wood when he plays it, but it does give him the advantage of other players not being able to play for those 3 bonus points. It's interesting to see how this lap's gone. So as expected, Kelder's gone for family growth, and then again it looks like Tom's gone for starting player, so I would assume Tom's shooting for family growth on his first turn next lap. It looks like Danton's gone for, that's the major improvement he's taken there, so from sort of the oven race. It doesn't look like an oven, but it looks like he's able to convert his grain or vegetables. And then it looks like Ankush has gone for some grain.
Now, I will tell you now that the current leader in this event with 2 wins out of 2 is Danton Hope. Ankush and Kelder have 1.5 wins each, and Tom Walker has a 2nd place and a win. He went through as the best tie-breaked, very close, again with Scott Agius, with his 2nd one there. So Danton Hope's 24 points, Ankush and Kelder have 21.5. So if Ankush wins, he will be uncatchable. That will be absolutely fine. If Ankush comes 2nd, it will put him on 28.5. So if Danton comes 3rd, Ankush will be ahead of him. So if Danton wins with Ankush 2nd, I think that will be good enough for at least bronze, because only one of the 2nd table can catch him. So I think Ankush is looking for a 2nd place or better. Now, I will tell you that Charlotte Levy has won Table 3. She has won, so that should affect her Pentamind score. She's currently 2nd overall, but she's played 1 match more in this particular event. So we're looking for Ankush to finish 1st or 2nd in this, potentially to affect the Pentamind standings. So if you are rooting Andres Kusk, you want to Ankush to finish 3rd or 4th. If you're rooting for Ankush Kandawal, you are hoping he comes 1st or 2nd.
Yep.
Potentially. Now, if he comes 2nd and Danton 3rd, I think he finishes ahead of Danton. So yeah,
he needs to beat Danton, I think, is his best.
I don't think it matters.
So if he doesn't win, you're right, 2nd, he still needs to be finished ahead of Danton, because Danton's the points leader on the table, isn't he, at the moment?
I think, I'm not sure it matters, to be honest, because I think if Danton doesn't win, Ankush will. If Danton doesn't win, Ankush will be ahead of him if he's in 2nd anyway.
Yeah.
So just for clarification, for the Pentamind standings, Ankush Kandawal needs, I think, at least a 2nd place finish to finish in the top 3 in the event overall. So first player is Tom. Tom's had an action. He's had 2 actions. So on Danton's turn.
His 2nd move, plough field he's gone for in his 2nd move, which makes sense. He's got some grain sitting there now that he could start sowing.
Apologies, Kelder went first, but Tom has taken start player.
Yeah, he's got the room space for another family growth the next lap, hasn't he? And if he didn't take it, I imagine Ankush would try and get that 4th person before Tom did.
Now, Tom has ploughed a field, and he's done that, I believe, because who could copy the plough field action? Someone who
Has
could
Tom
copy
got any
a plough.
bonuses for it? It's Tom himself actually that's got the when another player uses the plough. So it's interesting that he's done it.
He's actually gone and ploughed himself, hasn't he?
Perhaps because nobody else is doing it. It looks like Ankush has done it.
I don't know when he did it, unless he's got an action that can do it for. Doesn't look.
He doesn't look like that.
But he does. When Ankush takes grain, he ploughs a field. So Anchorage took grain this round.
So he doesn't need to take the plough
Correct.
field action, therefore not giving the bonus to Tom.
Yeah, so that card's not doing much for Tom, is the
No.
punter. I mean,
It should later in the game, because remember, you need to get some of them to avoid that minus point.
some of the ploughed fields. Yeah, you need
Yeah,
two,
you
don't
two.
you?
Yep, two
You
to
need
get to
two.
1 point.
Knock yourself out, mate.
So this is where they're starting to eat into the time a bit more. The actions is just many more options than normal. You're not desperate to feed if you've got your engine going up.
You're wondering about your long term. What can I do now to increase my family size? Because that's going to give me more moves. After that, you're looking at what can I do to get me the most points. So am I looking to renovate perhaps? I want to upgrade to clay, try and head for some stone points. Or perhaps to buy one of those major improvements that's got a lot of points on face up anyway.
Yeah, you need to make sure you fill your board as well. So as the game goes
Yeah.
on, piling things like wood up so that you can build lots of fences near the end. And when you take the build fence action, you build as many fences as you've got wood. If you want to do that, Kelda can build some more fences.
Yeah,
On her
15
turn.
is your maximum.
15 fences.
15
how many?
fences
Yeah,
maximum,
it's how many
yeah.
you've got in your starting supply.
It's interesting when you're building the fences, you have to really carefully think about your positioning with them, because you're right that you want to cover a lot of space, but actually one of the most efficient is actually cover slightly less space but segregate it so that it's lots of different little mini pastures within,
Then
not
you can-
just for the animal space, but because of course your pastures score points.
So Anchorage is actually going to build some fences now.
How many is he doing?
It looks like
He's
6.
boxing in 2 there.
Or is it 7? 6.
6 there, yep, so he's boxed in 2.
So he might be looking at
Cattle perhaps.
putting sheep. I know he's nicked the
He
sheep,
nicked the sheep.
and he's going to eat one
See
and
what
put one in
counts.
his house, I guess.
Yep, because he can, so turn that into 2 food.
Yum,
Didn't
yum,
miss
yum.
what Kelda did on her move.
She
said-
didn't
oh,
have a she didn't have a
Nope,
person.
she didn't, of course.
So she is the last person to
Yeah,
get to a
next
third
time.
person, and Scott will be the first person to get to their fourth person. Now only Scott and Anchorage can get a fourth person.
Yep, and
Why
Scott's
do I say
taken
Scott?
first
Keep saying Scott.
Tom,
Tom, I'm
following
so
you,
sorry.
Tom.
I've been here all week. I'm super tired. It's super hot in here, and I apologise. Scott, Aegis, he'd gone undefeated today. He won both his games, but in joint
But he's
first,
not
he
quite
failed
made
to
the
make
first
it.
table, unfortunately.
And Tom beat him on the tie based on performance in the games. So congratulations to that, Tom. I'm so sorry I've got your name wrong.
I don't believe we've got a finished result yet, have we, from Scott's board on
No,
board 2
so,
yet? It's just board 3 down, you said.
Board
Charlotte's
board
won?
3, Charlotte Levy got
Yeah.
12, so she's gone third, second, first. She's improved as she's gone on. And you said she was a good player.
She is, so I wonder
s-
if she's managed to. If it's, we said it wasn't enough, didn't we, in the Eurogame standings for her to catch Mike, but
No,
it
she
should
can't catch
help
Mike,
her.
but she
It
should
should help keep her
consolidate.
ahead of people like Danton and other people who were a
And
threat
David
to jump
Jameson.
up. Yeah,
She doesn't want David Jameson to beat her, does she?
no.
All right, so we're at Danton's turn, I think. Scott's taken the sheep. Are we on Anchor's turn? Anchor's time is ticking down.
It is Ankersh's time. They're ticking down,
I think
but
it's,
I don't think it's Ankersh's turn. Tom's just checking the sheep, hasn't he? So Danton must be on his move, so it looks like the clock's the wrong way around. I don't imagine Ankersh's going to run out of time, but hopefully he'll spot.
No, he does think. He does use his time to think, but when he's short of
does.
time, he will not run out. He will not.
No, he'll make sure he doesn't run out. It is difficult when you're trying to think so hard, particularly at a top table, to keep an eye on the clocks. But again, we've said that we need the clocks just to make sure that people keep up a suitable pace.
Space, yeah.
Most people do. It's just occasionally, and sometimes you don't even notice you're doing it. I know I got down to about 3 minutes left in one game, which is still plenty. But again, you do think, oh, did I take a bit of time? That was a bit rude of me. Or maybe I should have gone a little bit faster.
Is it Anchor's
Or
turn?
is it Ankersh's turn?
It can't be, can it? Because Tom's
I don't
had
think so.
Tom.
Oh, it depends who started this round. Kelda
Kelda did.
started this round, so
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Danton should play all his for Anchor's.
yeah.
We've lost something here. We are getting quite tired. It has
yeah.
been a long day. It is a complicated game, so I
I'm
think
not
we
sure
might be
why
on the wrong thing.
Danton's got
So
Got a person left. Did he choose not to place them?
you can't, can you?
I don't think so. Perhaps he just took something and didn't place it on the board. Perhaps his day labourer space. Day labourer. I'm assuming the one that Angus just pointed at, which is day labourer, because of course remember that gives him
onto the board,
2 food and a vegetables, isn't it? And
he's
can
got
turn
the vegetable, it turns into 5 food.
Yeah, I think he just didn't place it on the board.
So we can see Danton's had a good engine. He's got a way to access food. Remember, Danton he's won both his games outright, unlike Calder and Ankush, who've got a win and a tie. And they didn't tie with each other, surprisingly. They tied with different people, I believe. Kelder tied with Scott, and I think Ankush tied with Scott, as well.
That'd be where Scott's 2 ties have come from.
So Scott's got to be feeling lucky that he is played 2 of the players at this table already, and he didn't get beaten by them, but there you go.
He should still be in a good position for a medal, though, as long as he has a solid finish on his.
So Danton is the UK Agricola champion, I believe, and he's looking to go to Worlds if and when they get sorted or finalised with a specific date and time. So if you do go, Danton, best of luck. We can see that Tom on round 11, where the other stone space come out. There's another stone space, because some of the things in the game, the high point scoring ones need stone. You've got access to it more as the game goes on. But Tom has taken family growth, and he built a minor improvement, which is...
He did, which is interesting. So I believe this shows us that he's going for those 3 bonus points. He's built the builder's trowel. You can renovate your wooden hut to a clay hut at any time without using the renovate action. You must still pay for the renovation, but he's actually already got a clay hut, so it's not going to gain him any benefit. But it was cheap to play. It only cost 1 wood, so it looks like he's trying to solidify those 3 bonus points,
He's got a lot of wood, hasn't he?
Yep, so I think he's got wood to spare, and from the looks of things, he's after that. So he's on 6 minor improvements plus 7, the major, so 7 total there. That is a difficult thing to beat, isn't it? When you've only got 7 in hand.
That will offset the beggar cards he's got.
Yes.
He's also got clay rooms and no one else has, so I think Tom's actually doing pretty well.
He's in a good position. It's interesting to compare board position, isn't it? Because we say that most of them seem to have a food engine going in some way now. I think the only person who I can't see with an engine, possibly Kelder. I'm not sure what she's doing animal-wise. I think she managed to get rid of 1. But
she can't eat her animals, can Kelder. The other... Well, at least Ankush and Tom can. I don't think Danton can eat his animals, but he's the vegetable strategy. He's just ploughed 3 fields. So he's played a plough 1 field action, but he's got an improvement out.
He has. Let's have a look. There's quite a lot of different types of plough, isn't there, in this game? So it looks like a swing plough. Now,
more importantly, when Danton ploughed his field, so the swing plough, twice during the game, when you use the plough 1 field action, you can plough 3 fields instead of 1. The swing plough cannot be used with the plough 1 field and or sow actions. It's just the regular plough field action which is used, which Tom benefits from because he gets that free plough as well with his punner. So Tom has the 2 fields he needs ploughed. In theory, you can now kind of bake your bread, sow your vegetables. So if Danton can sow his vegetables, he gets the food engine really going. He probably won't need to worry about food for the rest of the game.
He could do with 1 more veggie, though. Then
now, Danton's taking starting player. He will not be using it for family growth because he can't fit people, so Ankush can at least...
Unless he's able to grab that 2 reed, but it's going to be difficult. Oh, it looks like he's played minor improvement again.
Yeah, it's some cane of some sort.
Danton.
So you can see how all these different improvements tailor your game, can't you? Because they're all accessing food in completely different ways. Some of them are using improvements, some of them are just kind of getting. So like in this case, Ankush has got loads of sheep and ate them all. Tom is, well, he begged, then he avoided feeding, and now he's got to the point where he can get a lot of grain so he can feed. And Danton's minor improvement is?
The shepherd's crook. Whenever you fence a new pasture that covers at least 4 farmyard spaces, take 2 sheep and place them in the new pasture. It's interesting whether he intends to use that.
How much wood he's got there?
It's a cheap card again. It's only 1. I don't know if he's shooting for the bonus points or perhaps he thinks maybe I'll use that card because it's a nice card.
I think he's got a lot of wood, and if he can fence off, so he would need 8 fences to do a 2. Yeah, if he does a 2x2 field or a pasture, if it's fenced off, he can then get 2 sheep in there, and you get them from the general supply. So he wouldn't be stealing the sheep from the board.
Nope.
He'll be taking them to supply, and then those 2 sheep become 3, and then 4, and then 5 by the end of the game, using the birds and the bees.
Yep, as long as he gets it done this term. It looks like the fence action. Yeah, the fence action is still available. It's just whether or not he's got enough wood there, because it looks like he's got at least 6. I'm not sure if he's got the 8,
I think
actually.
it's 2-3-3.
Yes, it does look like the left stack slightly smaller, doesn't it?
I think it's 2-3-3 he's got.
It's whether somebody else is going to beat him to it, because there's a lot of wood hovering around. So Angus has filled up his little field.
He's got
with
another
some
option.
cattle.
He can sow some vegetables.
He could, of
So
course.
he can
and
do
then
some
he'll
fields or
harvest,
sow some
won't he?
vegetables. Now, I think the sheep might be better because you get to 5 sheep by the end of the game if you do that. And 5 sheep will get you 2 points.
It's also filling his board space, isn't it?
Yeah. If you sow the vegetables, it will sort your food worries out, but you get 4 sheep instead if you do it later on. Although 4 sheep is also 2 points. So 4 or 5 sheep are the same. So maybe sowing some vegetables is best, although he'd like to do all 3. Because finishing with a lot of vegetables at the end of the game can get you 3 or 4 points as well. At the end of the game, no one's done it yet, so I'll explain for you at home if you haven't seen it. The way you kind of sow your grain and vegetables is you take 1 from your supply, you put it on a ploughed field, and then if it's a grain, you add 2 on top of it. If it's a vegetable, you add 1.
Yep.
And every time a harvest comes, you can take 1 of those back into your supply. So effectively, you're doubling or tripling the amount of grain or vegetables you have. And at the end of the game, you count the ones on your board and in your ploughed field. Is that
Yes,
right?
you do. So you kind of plants. So sowing in the last turn is pretty good because you're going to add some from the bank, and those are going to count towards your points at the end.
So you can even double the amount of vegetables you've got by sowing them in the last round.
Yeah.
He's fingering the fence action.
It looks like he's heading for it, doesn't it?
It's the first time I've ever seen Dan with the most on his clock.
It's definitely sort of the most upwards.
I guess he's questioning now, does somebody else want the fence, or do I need to grab it? Yeah.
So I think this is going to be 8 food. Sorry, 8 wood.
8 wood, yeah.
You mean for 13 or for 14?
I imagine he's going to go for the, as you said, 2 by 2 and get the free sheep.
You've already used the wood.
Oh, I've already used that. Sorry.
Oh,
Is this the guy that gives him a discount on wood?
let's have a look.
This is the wood carver.
You pay 1 wood less.
Yeah.
Yes.
So.
So was it being questioned, has he already used it this
Yeah,
round,
Ankush said he's
perhaps?
already used it. So he was looking to
are the
build, I think,
moves?
even more field. I think he's got more than 8 there.
What was his previous move? Let's have a look. Danton's taken start player. I can see start player and I
Ploughed
can
field,
see
but when you
plough
take-
field. That's it. And he's got the other one in his hand then, presumably, because he's picked it up off the
Yeah,
fence
but
token.
when he took start player, he built.
He built an
the
improvement, he
shepherd's
must have
crook
done it
for
for
free.
free. That's
Yeah.
it. So perhaps, has he maybe not got enough fences? He only got 7? So if he's done that,
It looked
perhaps
like
sow
he
the
had
2
8.
vegetables?
Unless
yeah,
he's
it does.
unless he's got more than 8, maybe he's got like 10 or 11, and he was looking to try and get 12, so they can build even more fences.
Yeah.
So Calder managed to take the wild boar.
Yeah, that fills up one of her little pens quite nicely.
Okay, so they're at the Ankush's last action
What
here.
did he go for? So Danton's changed
He
his
took
mind
some
then.
reed.
Took some reed, okay.
Yeah. So
New
Ankush
rules
has
perhaps?
sowed. So he's been able to plough steadily.
With his bonus card, because he ploughs when he takes.
Yeah, when he takes grain, I
doesn't
think. So he took some grain, and he's able to sow it.
His
So
vegetables
he's
in
going to
stock.
get the vegetables and the grain. At the end of the game, he's going to be able to score points for having those extra stuff.
Yep.
How is he for food? He's absolutely fine for food. He needs a sheep and all the food he's got there, which probably suffice.
Yep.
Actually,
He's got his boar as
he's
well.
got
I
4 people. No,
suppose.
he's only got 3 people, hasn't he?
He has. Yeah, he has 3 peeps.
Tom's got
3
4, and Tom has 8 food in front of him. It looks like he's already ready to pay his food. So what are we waiting for now?
Looks like Kelder's last turn, perhaps.
Oh,
Kelder's
she's
one
got 3
piece.
people, hasn't she? Brilliant.
She has now, yes.
Uh,
And who went first? That must mean that.
Tom went
Of course,
first.
Tom went first because he's hit Family Growth, and it'll be
do it.
Danton next.
Now,
back.
Danton did it without actually needing Family Growth, so Ankush can still get his 4th person out.
He can, which is interesting.
She's renovated straight to stone. We can do that, can't you? Is she doing that?
What's she doing? I don't
think she's
so.
renovating.
I think it's just discounted. I don't see that came from anywhere. Surprising.
I mean, I know that you put stuff in and then you took it out, so
She's doing
it could have easily
clay,
been a mistake.
clay
It
and
looks like
stone
a
in one go.
reed, stone. It looks like wood, is it? Not clay? I'm not sure.
My time's running out. I need to do my move.
You mind asking Steve?
Not sure. Let's see what she does with this.
Can I just pause that while because I need someone to check that I'm doing the right thing?
It's either 13 or
So
14.
I'm renovating
Sorry,
stone
it's a mistake.
Yeah.
I'm just reading
Yeah,
it.
I know it's a mistake, but I just want to check.
Free stone.
God, so I could have done 3.
Okay, so it looks like she's doing a stone renovation for which she gets a discount because she's played the stone cutter, and it looks like she's also buying another major improvement there.
Can you go straight from wood to stone houses?
I'm not sure if is she on wood? I'm not sure if she's on wood.
I think she's on wood.
It does look like she's on wood, doesn't it?
Yeah, I got the drawing as well.
Oh, you can use the stone cut twice.
Yeah, I can.
Is that everyone?
Yeah.
I thought you had to go through clay first. I could be wrong.
That's
Unless she is on clay and we just can't see, perhaps because of the light. It's very difficult to see the difference between
I
the
think.
wood and the clay, isn't it?
Yeah, feel free. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I thought she was on wood, but
I just put it in and then I was an idiot
I assumed you had to go through.
it's Danton. Danton had. We think we had Danton had 8 wood, so we don't know where he built
we're
the
not
fences.
sure.
When he was trying to build
not
the
sure.
fences, we think he had 8 wood.
We're not sure if it was the questioning 7 or 8 earlier. So whilst we're just looking here at what's happening with Danton, why don't we take a look at what people have got and what we're missing. So remember that you score for lots of different things here. So let's have a look at Tom first in the bottom right hand corner. It looks like he's got his 2 fields, so he's not losing points there. He's missing out on pastures at the moment. He's got grain but no vegetables. And he's missing all the wild boar and the cattle. So there's quite a few different things he needs to gain there to make sure he doesn't get some negatives at the end, but he's got plenty of resources to do so. From the look of Danton's board, he has got some fields, but again, he needs his pastures. But as we saw, it looks like he's got plenty of wood stashed up to do those fences and then gain those bonus sheep. He's got grain and vegetables sorted, but he needs those animals. But again, we get the bonus sheep once he does the build. From the look of Ankush's board, he has got his fields and pastures. He's got a bit of grain, bit of vegetable, and he's got all 3 of the different types of animal too. So at the moment, Ankush's only negative scoring will be for empty spaces, but of course at the moment all of them have got lots of empty spaces. And looking at Kelda, it looks like she needs to get some fields. She's got a couple of pastures there, which is good. She's missing out on the grain and vegetables, and she's also missing out on some sheep and some cattle. So again, there's quite a lot of different things that she needs to do to make sure she doesn't get some negatives, but she has got a stone house, which remember is worth 2 points per room, so that's quite a nice house. And with all of her stone discounts, it shouldn't actually be too expensive for her to add to that by building another room, particularly if other players aren't jumping on the stone at the moment, because it looks like everyone else has got a few stones stashed away.
Yeah, so one of the benefits of doing what she's done is that it's not too expensive to build another room. If you upgrade to stone early and you haven't got any discounts on stone, it's really expensive to build any more rooms.
Yep.
And extra rooms with stone houses are worth 2 points, but it's usually better to build them as wood and then upgrade them because that's the cheaper way around of doing it.
Yeah, the only exception I say is if you end up with a ton of clay, you might want to build it with clay. But again, we saw that when Tom got an absolute massive stack of it earlier. But you're right that wood is usually the easiest thing to gain in bulk and upgrade. So it looks like we're refilling everything.
Yeah, so we're going in. We've got 3 rounds left. They're unlikely to run out of time, but I will tell you now that they've all got at least 3 people. Tom's got 4. They're going to have more actions now than they did in the early time. So we're still a long way to go. In looking at terms of the amount of boards that have been filled, Ankush has got cattle and wild boar. He's got wild boar on his card, and he's got 3 ploughed fields.
Yes, I've been looking at the points there whilst you were just catching up with what's happening with Danton. So we're saying that Ankush at the minute has got no negative points apart from empty spaces. He's actually managed to hit all the different things. Tom's missing
got a
quite
sheep
a
as
few.
well, hasn't he?
Yeah, Tom's missing quite a few, as is Kelda at the moment. And Danton again is missing some, but if he puts those, if he puts that wood to use as fences, then he's going to get some sheep, and that's going to make a big difference to his score.
Just confirmed, he has 14 wood.
14 wood.
14 wood.
Well, I would assume he's looking to potentially build another room at the same time as also perhaps building a stable to go in his fences, maybe, if he's got quite a lot of wood, but it depends what he's shooting for.
Possibly. If he was to build wood, that would be 14, I think.
Yep.
where he encloses 6 spaces and then cuts them into 3 twos.
But he needs, whenever he fences a new pasture that covers at least 4 farmyard spaces.
Okay.
So he wants to do a block of 4, but he could do it in 2 moves, couldn't he? He could make a block of 4 and then cut it up on the next move with some additional fences to
Yeah, or he could
separate
make a
it
block
into
of
4.
4 and a block of 2 in one go.
Yes.
Yeah, because you want to be as efficient with actions as you can. Really, you don't want to waste actions. You don't want actions that don't do much, because everyone else has got all these extra people and extra things that do stuff. How many points is Danton's tutor worth at the moment? Is it 3?
At the moment, 3. He's got 3 additional occupations. Yes, he's been playing some minor improvements again, possibly shooting for that bonus. But I think at the moment those bonus 3 points are sitting with Tom.
Yeah, who's got 7? Or is it 6? That looks like a person, actually. It looks like... No, it is 7,
2,
isn't
3,
it?
Yep, 7.
Yeah, 7. It's hard to tell, but the occupations have a yellow background. And to make it definitely clear, the minor improvements have an orange background, a light orange background.
They got the red and the brown, right? We can see quite clearly the major improvements and those cards and begging.
Yeah.
But you're right that yellow and orange perhaps wasn't the best choice for different.
It gives the whole game like a very natural look, I think. But,
Yeah.
Right, Kelda's taken start player to build an improvement. So she's going to build...
Let's have a look.
It's another one where you're passing it to, so it's another board breeding. So Tom now has a second card from Kelda. When you play this card, take 1 wild boar. So she's played that minor improvement, and this passes to the person to her right. Apologies, left. So Tom now has in his hand a lumber and a boar breeding card that will be passed on if he ever uses them.
It looks like Kelda's shooting for a big score on her board, because although it looks on her board as though her pastures are full, don't forget she has got a card in play that allows her to store 2 animals on it.
So it can do 15 then,
15.
So we're at Tom. Tom's got 4 actions. He is going 4th here. And Kelda's taken start player. So Ankush will be 4th next time. Ankush is still the only person who can do the family growth, so there was no point him racing ahead to do it that round. No one else can beat him to it.
As soon as somebody adds another room, he's going to have to jump straight onto it then, isn't he?
Now, the action that Danton took is the family growth without having a room action, isn't it? It's the new action out
Yes,
there.
it is.
So that is an action, so you can get an extra person. You don't need a room to house them. So Danton will now have 4 people. He will need to feed them. But can you take that action twice? And you could have 5 people in 3 rooms in your house.
You can only if it's not taken, you could take it in the next
So
round.
you could take it next
Yeah,
round.
if it's taken, there is a card, but it's not been played yet, that allows you to play on that again if another player's on it. So you couldn't take it twice yourself, but you could take it if someone else did.
So you'd imagine that's what Kelda's gone first for.
Yes.
Family
to try
growth, that room. But Ankush doesn't need to do that. He's got a room.
He's got a room for it.
And Tom probably won't get access to that because it'll be a while before he takes start player. And remember, every person you finish the game with is worth 3 points.
3 points each, but it's worth noting, for the space where you take family growth but you do not have a room to store them in, they do not count as covering up the space they're in, so you can't use them as a board filler. You'd still get a negative point if that was the only thing in that space.
You have to pile them up in your only rooms.
Yeah,
Okay.
and have us squash them into your house.
Do you think you'd be worried then about filling in the empty spaces of your board? Now, Danton has got access to a lot of... so he's playing some fields, which allows Tom to do 1 as well. So Tom has ploughed a field already.
Yep.
Danton can plough 3. And I think he's going to fill the rest of it with fencing.
I wouldn't be surprised, yes.
So Danton's not going to have empty spaces at the end. Ankush, how will he fill the extra space in his board?
He's still got plenty of fence left, and remember that, of course, with the fences he's already built, that's going to save him 2 fences from boxing in the 4 spaces just above it, instead of the top left of his board, closest to him. So he could end up fencing. He could possibly plough again, although, again, if other players are jumping for that strategy, he might not manage it. I'm not sure what his stacks are currently for his vegetables and grain. It'd be interesting to know if he's going to clear them for Ankush.
I think he's just got 1 and 1.
Yeah, if he's got 1 and 1, he's done quite well, because that will clear, and then he can sow in the last round.
You mean on the field?
Yeah, no, on the field.
I think he's got 2 and
2.
1. Yeah, I think he's got.
So he could
2,
resow
2,
the
1.
vegetable, but he's not quite timed it right for the grain.
Well, because he's got different resources. It's very hard to time it right, I think, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we're on Kelda now. Kelda's time is ticking down. She's still got 5 minutes left, so that's absolutely fine.
Still got plenty of time, yes. I suppose she's had more thinking to do because she hasn't had to do that standard start player and then family growth. She's had to think about it a little bit more because everyone else has been making those moves.
There's a lot of clay on the board.
There is. It does tend to pile up towards the end of the game. I suppose if you're looking to
She's built
renovate.
another improvement now. You'll
Yep.
notice that all those improvements, she's built 3 major improvements. All of those are worth points. She's built the last one along, and the last one is the one with the most.
I believe so. I
The
know on
well's
top
like
row,
the well's like 4 points or
Well's
something
4,
like that.
yes.
So she's probably got about 10 points in major improvements there.
It's a nice strategy to go for if she's not going to get the action efficiency of the family growth. And, of course, if all the other players are fighting over family growth, and a lot of them are relying on things like vegetables and grain for their strategies, if you're shooting for big piles of resources to then buy cards, that's a strategy no one else is going to get in the way of. So it's a good idea.
She gets the discount in stone. She might
She
even
does.
have time to build more.
Yeah.
I would worry, with Kelder's board, I'd be worried that she just doesn't fill.
Yeah, I'd be
That's
worried
the
about how she's
board.
going to fill the space. It looks like she's got a little bit of wood, a little bit of stone, but it's not going to fill much. I don't believe, let's have a look at her cards, I don't believe she's got any bonuses that are going to help her fill space, has she? No, it doesn't look so.
She's got one person that we haven't actually put out yet, actually. She's played an occupation that we missed, so we'll find that for you. The most recent occupation she's played is the conservator. Conservator? I don't actually know that word. You can renovate your wooden hut to a stone hut without first needing to renovate to play.
There we
so
go.
we missed that earlier. We were questioning as to why she was doing it.
Because we
but
missed it.
she renovated and built an improvement. That's what that pile of resources without clay was.
Yep.
So we are right. We thinking that you do need to go from wood to clay first, then to stone.
The only thing I'm interested about looking at Kel's position then is that we said earlier that she played an animal yard, but I can't see the animal yard at the moment.
The animal
on
yard
there.
is that one, isn't it?
No, I think that's her. Is that stone cart? So I'm wondering if perhaps there was a card where she was required to return something. I'm not sure if she can return a minor improvement to gain the major improvement. I know there are some of the major improvements where you have to return something for it, but I'm unsure if she can return a
You
minor
think she's
improvement. Unless
you
it's
think
on the
she's
floor. I'm not sure
possibly.
if it's disappeared. Because that's a good card to have in some space for animals.
I'm not going to interfere with the game unless they ask me to, if they can want us to verify
Yeah.
that. So if something's happened, I don't want to interfere. I don't want to have strategic advice, I'm
She
afraid.
did definitely put something back at some point
Okay.
to gain, but I'm not sure where it ended up. It could, to be fair, it could be the card just next to the clock. We can't quite see out of sight there. That does look like it's the right colour. But again, everything's the same colour in this game, pretty much, so we can't say for certain.
So if you're looking for points, just for example, on Tom's card at the bottom, the major improvement, the ready one, has a little gold circle, and that tells you how many victory points the cards are worth. So some of the people and some of the improvements you've got are worth victory points. So Tom, you can only see he's got that and the carp pond above it. Carp pond is worth 1. Danton has the hut he's got is worth some points. That is worth 1 point.
1 point for the chicken coop, yeah.
And the major improvement. Anchors has got a major improvement for some points. And the fruit tree and the forest pasture, the fruit tree and the forest pasture 1. Kelder has nothing if she hasn't got the animal yard out, apart from the major improvements, which are
Some decent
worth
points.
probably about 10 total. So you'll see that Tom is upgrading to a cooking hearth. I think you have to return the fireplace to do so.
You can either return the fireplace or pay the clay cost
The full
on it.
cost, yeah.
It's exactly the same principle. It's just that you get a better return on most things except sheep. Sheep stays the same.
Okay, and he's building an occupation from his hand. And that is the plough driver. Once you have a stone house, you can pay 1 food at the start of each round to plough at most 1 field. So he can start ploughing his fields. So that is a way for Scott to increase his thing. So basically, because he has a stone house, he upgraded to stone. Well done, Scott. We missed that again. He can then play each round 1 food at the start of the round to plough a field.
Yeah,
That
it's a
will
good
enable him
engine for
to,
Tom.
he's also got about, it looks like at least 11, if not, at least 9, if not 10 wood.
Yeah, I can see, I think 10, you're right there. But again, that's going to fill up his space in the same way that you predicted Danton was going to fill up his space with fences.
But he did it in such a way that he didn't get chickens.
And he didn't get, he
Not
didn't get his
chickens,
bonus sheep.
I
You're
said
right, he didn't
chickens.
get his bonus
He
sheep.
did
But of
not.
course,
He
remember
didn't
that
fill for
card
it,
he
yeah.
played for free. So it could have been him shooting for the minor improvements 3-point bonus.
But he's got 4 pastures, and that is worth 4 points.
He has
He's-
4
he's-
pastures and
he's-
6 at the moment on his fields. So that must be worth some good points.
Yeah, 6.
have a look.
6 fields. Yeah, so they're 4 points and 4 points.
Yeah, that's
He's
the
not
maximum.
gone down the upgraded house, but he's filled his board. He's going to get 4 points for the ploughed fields, 4 points for the pastures.
There's quite a lot of animals to grab as well, which
Yeah.
again are worth points, and he's got space for. He's got his vegetables. Grain is something he needs as well. He's got no grain at the moment, I don't think.
Yeah. Has he got anything that gives him grain easily?
You mean Shepherd's Crook?
Seasoned worker?
He has
No?
when you sow, you can plant 2 grain fields on his card, but of course he needs to
things
gain the
sow.
grain in order to
He
sow
can
it.
sow his
yes.
vegetables and then, yeah. No, because he can. Oh, would he need the grain to plant?
Yes, he needs the grain before you can sow it, unfortunately. So he's very unlikely to get that.
He's
He'd
gonna
have to
start
take
start
grain,
taking
grain
animals
and
now.
that. Yeah, animals is the best thing for him, I think, because it's going to get him off the negative. Interesting, he's taken the 2 boar rather than 3 sheep. I imagine he's looked at what other people
No.
have got.
Yeah, but Tom took the cattle.
Yes, he needs. I was just interested why he took
Boars are worth
1
more
less
points.
boar rather
Are they
than
not?
sheep. 3 sheep, it puts you in the 1 category, as does 2 boar.
Yes, I think they're the same.
Yeah. And I suppose he's looking at what other people are after as well, which is that. Is it Calder's got some way of looking after extra boar? Oh, it
Oh,
looks
her-
like the.
she's found her
she's
animal
found her
yard.
animal yard. It must
Must
have been
have
on the
fallen
floor
or
or
something.
somewhere.
Ankush Ankush has got a sheep. Who needs sheep?
He's got sheep, 3 cattle.
Tom has a sheep.
Tom has a sheep.
Calder can
Kelda
get
can
sheep,
sheep,
but
yeah.
she so
She can only store 2 of them, though, can't she? Oh no, she can take a pet, so she could take all 3 of them. But then her breeding, she would get breeding, but she's going to have to put either the extra sheep or the extra.
she's
boar.
possibly got 3 buildings. I don't know whether she can cook them now. She needs
That's
somewhere to
true.
get food, I
She's
think.
probably got something in there to convert. Not sure with them being underneath at the moment.
So, just as with 1 round, this round and 1 round to go, who do you think's best placed?
Oh, very difficult to say. I think Tom's in a strong position because he's had more moves going through the game, and we've worked out how he's going to fill up that board. He's got a stone hut, which is worth lots of points, and of course those people are worth 3 points on their own. At the moment, who's on stone? No one's interestingly taking starting player yet, which is interesting. That might.
What's the last action? Is it the renovate?
The
Last
one that
action.
needs to come up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in the final round, it's renovate and fences. So actually, it looks like, well, at the moment, Danton's got no fences, so he's unlikely to want that, although he could renovate. Ankush perhaps is shooting for it. He could renovate up to
How much does it cost?
stone.
How much is it? Yeah.
He's got 4, so he needs to gain. He's got the reed. He's got 2 of the stone. He needs 2 more stone to renovate,
Does
and
he
then
need
build
clay
the
first?
fences.
He needs clay first, doesn't he?
Is he still on a wood?
I think he's still on wood.
Could be. So
think he's still
in that
wood.
case, in that case, he's
has
after
clay.
2 clay then. But there's a big pile of clay on the table.
Yeah. I think Danton's doing pretty well, to be honest.
I
He's
do,
got.
yeah.
He's filled his board. He's maxed out on ploughed fields and pastures. He doesn't need any more.
No.
He's got 4 people, so he's going to got the same people points as
Yeah,
Tom.
No.
He
Yeah.
doesn't get any begging cards.
No.
Tom is going to score the 3 points for Ankush's village elder. Danton can, in theory, if he's got nothing else to do, just play another person, because each one person's worth a point.
3 points for a person. It's quite a big
No,
game.
person's in occupation.
Oh yes.
Yeah, the only person you can get is on the family growth without
Without room.
rooms. Now,
Which Angus has taken this round.
yeah, but that means Ankush can also take the regular family growth as well,
He can. Yep.
because he's got space for
But
the
no
regular.
one else can.
Correct,
I don't
yeah.
believe. Yep, because Tom's already full. So actually, he gets 2, and then in the last round, he's going to get 5 actions, which is very nice because I think he's going to be the only one on 5. Am I right? I think
so, yes.
Danton's on 4 because he took the without room last time.
Yeah, but
Tom on 4 as well, and Kelder I think is on 3. So yes, Ankush will have a slight upper hand there. So maybe that could swing it for him.
So I think Tom's done very well. It looked
I
like he
do
did
too.
awful first round, begging twice,
Yeah.
and then not having food. And you're like, oh, what's he doing? He can't feed at all. And then he's starting to see he's got a lot of wood there. He just bought another one off Kelder using his plane, is it?
Is that
It's using his
his
wood
punner?
buyer.
Oh,
Wood buyer. There's too many cards.
too many cards now.
This is by far, if you've watched a lot of the Mind Sports Olympiad commentary, this is by far the most complicated game
Yep.
we've had on commentary, but not necessarily the most complicated game. A lot of the other games that are complicated because they're deep strategic games. This one just has a lot going on. There's a lot of cards you need to know and be aware of. And part of the skill in this game is the draft, where you're trying to draft those combinations.
I feel like this game's got a little bit less blocking in than other games, because a lot of the Euro games, you're obviously thinking about, is someone going to take the action I want, therefore do I need to grab it now? But I feel like there's less gain in this game to just outright blocking someone for no advantage to yourself, because then, although you slow the other player down, there's 2 other players you're competing with.
Yeah, it feels like all the actions you do in this turn are for the sole benefit of yourself.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have a choice between 2 actions, and maybe you've got 2 meeples, and you think, I need both of these, but which one's less likely to be taken by other players? Not in a vindictive way, just in a might they take it just because it's good for them way.
Yep.
And you've got to decide that. So in this particular case, Ankush could have taken both family growths. He obviously takes the one that other people can take, leaving the one that no one can take to himself.
Yeah. It's interesting that from the looks of things, it was actually Kelder that went first, yet it was Ankush that got the family growth with no room. Perhaps other people are worried about the lack of food, because we're about to harvest at the end of this round. Maybe they were worried if they... Although, again, it's a new person, it's a baby, it's only 1, but you're right that on the next round it will then cost another 2 to feed it. It's just interesting that family growth has been grabbed first move every round. This time it's gone round the table a little bit.
Now, one of the buildings, one of the major improvements is one that benefits you for having certain resources at the end of the game. They give you some bonus points at the end, is it? Is the one that gives you bonus points for stone at the end?
Oh, I'm not sure. If
Because
so,
if
I
there
imagine
is-
it's in Kelder's
Well,
pile.
yeah, that's what I imagine too. I know there's one that gives you bonus points for read and stuff like
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of the buildings, and I think there might be one for each of the basic resources.
Yeah.
So, like the joiner, I think
Yes.
is one of the ones you can get. So if Tom could get the joiner, he's got a lot of wood. In fact, Ankush has got a lot of wood.
You have a
and
bonus
Kelder.
with the joinery as well. Somebody did. But again, too many cards to track through them all, I think.
It looks like none of the times are ticking down. What I would really like to see, there we go,
There we go.
Ankush, thank you very much for listening to me there. What I would really like to see is a 4-way clock. Why is there not a 4-way clock?
Not sure. I suppose space, perhaps?
Once you
Just
finish
general.
it,
I mean, why they should have some 4-way clock, shouldn't they?
yeah, or you basic.
Especially for games that the clock the turnover is always clockwise.
Yeah.
So he would have run out.
Yeah, in this game it would work, but you're right, in variable turn order games it's not going to work.
There's,
That always confuses
I've
me whenever
seen.
you don't play in clockwise order.
I have a cube and a tetrahedron with coloured faces, and you put it in a stand, and only the face that's pointing upwards ticks down. And then he's like, oh, it's red's turn. You take the
turn.
cube and you turn it to the red face, and then the red's clock ticks down.
Brilliant.
And that's quite a nice game,
Yeah,
but we don't
that's
really
nice.
time games at ours, so we don't use it. But something like that would be good.
No, it's just to make sure a tournament stays on time, isn't it? I
You
imagine
can
with
also see whose
friends.
turn it is.
Yes. If someone goes, is it my turn? You don't need to, you just look at that.
look it
Although
up.
normally when you ask the question, is it my turn? The
It's-
answer's almost
yeah.
always yes.
I call that the Mrs. Rain rule, but she doesn't say, is it my turn? She says, whose turn is it? And we always go, yours. That was my
Yours.
mother. So if you're watching, Mum, we've got a rule named after you.
How many fences?
I have 11. No, actually, wait. Yeah, no, I do have 11.
It's interesting, it's exactly as you said, isn't it? They've got more actions, but also the time per action has increased slightly, because you're right, it's at the point now you know how many turns you've got left, you know exactly how many actions you've got left, so you're not just thinking, oh, I'll grab this because I need this, immediately. You're now thinking, am I going to take a gamble here? Am I going to take something that gives me or avoids me the -2 at the end, so it's effectively a 2-point move for me, or is there something I can set up, but I'm relying on somebody else not blocking it for me?
Yeah, I think you can't rely on people not taking spots you want. You've got to take the best theoretical spot for you.
Yeah.
I also think it's this game, and especially you get this in Euro games, but near the end of the game, you point count.
Yes, you
think,
do.
all right,
You're like,
this
who am I
action scores
competing
me
with?
5, this action scores me 6, but if I don't take that, then he can get 8.
Yeah.
And then you try and work out your score. And you could sit there in theory, if you had enough time, work out everyone's current score and decide who you think you need to try and catch up to.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to know, wouldn't it, what each of the four of them are thinking. Who do they think is currently in the lead, or where do they think they currently stand? Who is it they're going after? So, if you're thinking along the medals, if you're sitting in there thinking, okay, somebody else is miles ahead, do I maybe try and ignore them, try and hinder somebody else a little bit for maybe a point to myself.
Yeah, tactics dictate it slightly differently. So Ankush does not care about winning this event. He cares
No.
about winning the whole Pentamind. So if you speak to him, he's focused. He knows. He'll know what he needs to get. He'll know.
Yep.
He'll be aware of the current standings going into this round. He knows that second place in this is probably good enough for a third place overall in the event, which is kind of what he needs. So he will be, if it comes to the point where if Kel's is an runaway leader, if he can guarantee second by focusing on the other two or something like that,
He'll go
he
for the
will
second.
do that.
He will. He's very good at working out the situation, isn't he? So fences, which we thought might come up with him just to try and fill up a bit of space if he'd got enough wood.
I think he's going to fill at least 4 spaces here. So he's spending.
And again, he's putting it there because he's got a couple of the wood, a couple of the fences already down for it.
And he's done exactly the same as Danton's done, so they're going to get the same points for their pastures. And it does mean that Ankush can, in theory, grow cattle twice now.
Not in the same.
No, because
he
can grow it once,
but he can grow at the end here,
he gets two more grows.
And his boar is still sitting there on that card at the side. Remember, he's still got that presumable 6 boar that you predicted a while back.
So how many is?
If he gets enough food, he might have to drop a few of them for food, actually.
Possibly. Now he can drop 1 boar because at the end of the game he will have 6 boar.
Yep,
and
which
I think
scores the same as 5.
End of the game it scores the same as 5. So he can eat 1 boar. Again, if he doesn't do anything, he can't.
He gets 5
cattle. He can
which
eat
is worth the same as 4, so we can get rid of one of those.
He can eat one of them as well.
Yeah.
So if he needs food, he's fine.
His
Remember,
sheep's
he's
more just
also
avoidance of a negative, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. So I think he's going to look potentially maybe to build something or renovate to stone. I think renovating to stone is probably what he's going to be aiming to do. So we'll see him do that at the end of the game. If he renovates to stone, he gets 8 points because it's 2 points per stone room.
Yes.
But your house is weird. You can't renovate a house and just improve. Oh, I'm going to build a stone room at the end of my house. You have to renovate the whole house. So you can't just add a stone room to your house. You effectively have to change all the wood and things.
He's got to get to clay first, though, hasn't he? Is he still on? He's still on wood.
He's got some clay, and you can do it in one go. Can you renovate?
No, you could only do straight to stone with that minor improvement card that
I thought that's
has.
missing out the clay step. If you have enough to pay for clay and stone,
I suppose you could do it all in one go. You're right. If you pay for both of them,
can you do that?
I'm not sure actually.
Actually, it's a good question.
It's interesting.
We'll see. If he does do that, then we know we can. If he doesn't, then probably you can't. So we're at Kelda's 3rd turn here. She did go first, and no one has taken start player, which is probably the latest it's been gone free this round. People might not realise it's still available. It's not because she suddenly doesn't know what she's doing. It's just that because now she has to look at all the different action spaces that are free. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21 action spaces she can take now.
That's a lot of choice.
Whereas at the start of the game there was only like 12 or something.
Yeah.
So.
I'm still interested to know how she's going to fill up that space.
Yeah,
That's the thing I'm really wondering with her, and especially as she's already used some of her fences. She can try and do the same thing that Danton and Ankush have done, but she's still looking at 5 empty spaces, which is quite a lot, actually.
Guaranteed first player.
Was that another occupation there, was it? Oh, I presume it gives a free stone room. And it looks like he's hovering over a minor improvement as well, maybe.
Oh, he's built the churn or whatever it is.
I played the extra stone room, then I played.
Did you find
it's
the occupation?
Hand mill. No, sorry.
He's got 2, hasn't he? He's got an occupation, and he's also got doing a lot in one turn here. We're struggling to keep up. Mason? No.
No.
So the millstone he's built. Oh, he's built another one as well.
Has he done 2?
He's done this. He's built a millstone, which is whenever you bake 1 or more grain into bread, you receive 2 additional food. So he can now, if he can bake, he's probably got. He can bake bread now, so he's got the grain to bake bread. He's going to have no problem with food. He's got a big stack of food over the course of the game.
So it looks like it was the mason that he played as his occupation. Once during the game, at any time after your stone house reaches at least 4 rooms, you may extend it by 1 room at no cost.
Okay. So that gets him 2 points for that stone house. So he's got a stone house. It looks like he's left 6 field spaces open. He has like 10 wood, and that is exactly enough to field that last bit off. It looks like he's looking what to feed people now. He needs 8 food. He's got 8 food in his hand because he's got 4
3
people.
spare, I think. So 3
Yeah.
spare for next time.
And
Although he'll have another one. He's gone family growth, hasn't he, this turn? So he should
he has,
have.
yeah. So he needs 9, does he?
So that's how he snuck in. So he's kind of snuck one over on Ankush there, hasn't he? Because you're right, Ankush was saving that family growth with a room space because he was the only one with a room. So Tom has managed to sneak in by playing an occupation.
Can I ask how Tom's played 4 times this turn and Ankush's only played twice?
Let's have a look.
So one of
What
the
did
actions
his,
allow him
what did
to-
his minor improvement do for him? Did that give him some kind of turn advantage?
Don't think so.
No.
It was the millstone whenever you bake one of my grain. So how many cards has he got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 plus a major improvement.
Would I get 30 seconds? I wouldn't, would I? You don't
So I don't know how he was able to play.
So much in one go. It was quite a large turn, wasn't
Yeah.
it?
It was. I don't know how he was able to play that.
Where's he gone? He's red, so
He played. It looked like
Cattle?
he looked
I
like he
don't see
played
any
twice
cattle.
there. He looked like he placed twice there.
Yeah.
I think he changed the cattle straight into food potentially.
Yes, because he can do that. Family growth, I see him on as well. Sheep, again, he's got 1 in his house, must be food.
I think it looked like he played in the occupation family growth.
It did,
2
didn't it, on the
turns in
same
a
turn?
row.
Oh,
and-
well, the family growth gives him the minor improvement.
yeah.
What the occupation gave him a stone room, but I'm not sure why he was then able to play again immediately, unless one of his other cards
Yeah, I'm
allows him to
checking
do
now.
that.
So he's going down like a renovation strategy. I must have missed something there. Again, there's a lot going on. There really is. There's just so many cards that interplay with each other. So, again, apologies, Tom, we missed what you did there.
It looked impressive,
It
though.
it felt like you had 2 turns. All right, so Ankush has 5 people.
And let's have a look.
And Tom's got 5 people.
Yep.
Kelda's got 3, but she can take family growth without.
Yeah, no one
Room.
took start player, so she can just jump on that.
She took start player.
Oh, she took player, thank
She
you.
took it
I
and
missed
kept
that.
it, I think.
I was going to take the field.
So I don't know who's. This is going to be close, you know.
It is.
I think Tom might win this, you know.
He's gonna if he fences in that last bit,
Oh,
which
he's
he
got
can
a lot of stuff,
easily
yeah, he's got a lot of
easily
stuff.
do, not a problem.
He
He's
can
missing.
get a lot of grain. How many grain do you need for max points?
How many's he got? One,
You
two, he's
need
got
8.
5 at the moment.
But if you can sow, he'll get.
Yeah, and has he got
tons.
bonuses when he takes grain as well? Or is
Yeah, he
that
can take
somebody
4.
else?
When he goes to take 1 grain, he can take 4.
That's
because he's got
enough
2
then,
things.
isn't it?
He's got the most minor improvements, or the most improvements.
Yep.
So Ankush is going to give him 3 points in his village elder. Danton's still doing well. He's maxed out his ploughed field and he's maxed out his pastures.
And he's got 4 people to play with.
Yeah, can he renovate?
He needs. Needs enough stone. Not sure what's under his
Are you
hand.
saying that he's saying he's
Depends
on
how
clay
much
then? He is.
He
He
is
is
on clay.
Ankush is still on wood though.
Ankush is on wood. Kelda and Tom are on stone, and it looks like Danton is on.
Yeah.
But
Just
he's got a stack of clay, but he's got no stone. So Danton presumably is going to dive for that 3 stone tile.
if that's his intention to renovate, he has
Yeah,
to die for that.
I think would be the most points for him.
yeah, but he
3
has to do for
points.
that, and he has to get the renovate action.
He does.
But there's 2 renovate actions.
That shame he hasn't got any spare
So
wood because he
Kelda's-
could also build a stable. Because
Kel-
remember that the stables are worth points at the end if they're fenced in.
Kelda's fencing.
Yeah. So she's filling up a bit of board space. Did she just go fence or
Yeah,
no?
she's
Because she
just
can't
gone
renovate,
fencing.
can she?
She's
So
just
it's-
gone fencing.
Yep. And she's used all the wood she's got.
Yeah.
Still a little worried about how she's going to fill up a
Yeah,
board.
I think she's struggling.
Yeah.
I think she's going to
I
struggle.
think it shows, doesn't it, how much of a difference it makes if you're sitting there 4th person to get the family growth.
I think so. Yeah, I think the other people denied her.
Yeah, and she had to play 4th at least 3 or 4 times in a row, didn't she?
Yeah.
Because of
Tom's gone first. a
Tom's
lot.
setting up to try and get that family growth was taking start player, so it hits her twice, doesn't it? Really, it hits her in 2 ways.
Yeah. So
Tom's what's he going for?
Danton now has
Battlefield.
access to family growth without room, if he wants it, just to get an extra person for 3 points.
Yep.
Yeah.
Again, he gets 3 points for upgrading, but he needs to get the stone first, so getting an extra person is more efficient. From the looks of things, yeah, he's gone for sow, and he's used his bonus, which I believe gives him an extra ploughed field whenever he takes that action.
Yeah. No, I think he plays for a ploughed field at the start of the turn by paying a food.
Ah, yes.
So he paid food for plowed field at the start of the turn, and
Yep,
then he sowed.
and then he's stacked them
He's
up.
now got 15 vegetables. He only
15
needs-
grain, yeah, it's
Yes,
way more than he
apologies.
needs.
He only needs 8, but he can
He
feed
food,
it.
yeah.
He can use that
He's
to feed.
got, I believe, I think it's worth 3 or 4. I can't quite see his major improvement from here as to how much it's worth.
He improved it. It was one that he had to return one. It was the cooking
Yeah.
half. I think he returned one to get back. So Danton took family growth for 3 points.
that's what I thought.
Ankush took take 1 grain. So I imagine he's also going to sow if he can.
It would increase his points also if he sows. He's got enough to fill up 2. I can't see if he's got 2 or 3. He might have enough for 3 of those fields actually, and then he gains an additional 3.
Kelda took reed. So I think she might be looking to build another stone room.
Yes, because she gets a discount, and
Unless
there's 3
she's
stones
got,
still face up.
unless she's
but-
got the major improvement that increases for the reed.
Or there's something else on the table that costs stone and reed that she can buy, but I think she's bought most things actually.
So what we're going to do when they finish is I'm going to go through, we're going to turn the sound up, we're going to listen to them score. They're going to do it out loud so we can hear, and then announce the final scores at the end for us. So we'll make sure that happens so you can see that. I understand it's hard to see what's going on, especially if you've not played this game before. You go like, whoa, what's going on here? And if you have played this game before, unless you've played it more than 10 times, you've probably not seen the same card twice. Ankush has sowed.
As you expected, because it's increased
Yeah,
his
so
vegetable
he's now
stash
got
and
4
his grain
vegetables.
stash.
So 4 vegetables gets him 4 points. He's got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 grain. So you think he might only have 3 points. Again, we'll just double check that for you. It's hard to see from a top-down view just how big some of the stacks are.
Again, if it's 6 or it's 7, he's the same points value, isn't it? So he may, it's 6
Yeah.
or 7, he's getting the same
He
points
can eat
for
one.
it.
He can
Yeah,
still.
got a
I
spare
think he can still eat at wild boar, and he can still eat a cattle if he needs
He
to.
can.
All right. We are going to be with this as quick as we can. We know that Ankush needs at least 2nd place in this to do the Pentamind. But once we've scored, we will have to leave you ASAP. This game has taken 1 hour past our streaming time. We are going to stay with you to the end because we're just that good at what we do. But as soon as we've got a result, we're going to have to leave you. We've got Ankush has 3 actions left. Danton has 1. Tom has 2. And Kelda is out. I think Kelda's done her 3 actions. So I imagine she's gained. Did she just go to the food space? She did, didn't she? She needed food. So I think
Yeah.
it looks like Kelda is going to come last. She's not going to fill those last
Unfortunately, yeah.
spaces. And then the other 3 are going to fight out. So if you were Ankush, you've got to be pretty confident. You're probably going to come at least 3rd. Looking at the points Kelda's going to lose for not having done certain stuff. She's not got any cattle. She's not got any sheep. She's not got any grain. So I think she's had a bad game, but she's not a bad player. She's
Not
made the
at all.
final of another Euro game yet again today, so well done her. And she has already won and come joint first in 2 other games today.
She may have inadvertently also were taking her fences to fill up a little bit of her space. She's also blocked Tom from taking any fences to fill up his space. He has filled them up with stables, so they are full. However, remember that he's now missing pasture, so he won't actually score for that at the end. And the stables don't score unless they are fenced in.
He's got his 6th ploughed field though, so he gets the maximum
has.
for ploughed fields, which is 4 points. Maximum you can get for anything on your board is 4 points. Max cattle 4 points, max grain 4 points.
Yep.
So you can't just go grain mad like he has done.
Yep. You need to diversify a little bit. Actually, missing out on 1 thing is a 2-point swing for you, because the difference in having 1 and none again is -1 versus 1. So.
He won the 2nd
So looking at this, it looks like Ankush has got 3 moves left to make. Kelda has made all of her moves
Yeah.
now. Tom's got 2 to go, and Danton's just got 1 left.
Stanton, family growth. So he's got his 5th person, but he didn't have 5 actions this round.
Yep.
So I think we are on Tom.
You want wild boar.
Ankush, I think, has 1 in his hand. Yeah,
Oh,
I think it's
Ankush.
Ankush because
Then
he's,
it's
'cause he's got a
Tom.
3rd. Yep.
Yeah, then it's Tom.
Then Tom, because Kelda's run out.
So he's renovating.
Yep. So
And
that's
he's renovating to clay. So he didn't have clay.
So he
He's
didn't,
going to clay.
Yep. So he's gone for clay.
So he's now got. He's not going to score as many on as Tom of his houses, but he's going to score
That's 4 points.
4 points more
for
than he
that.
did
Yeah.
have. Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's got.
And remember, the way that he's gained those 4 points is converting resources that aren't worth anything at the end of the game, unless you've got the relevant conversion.
Yeah, I think the relevant buildings, Danton has a second major improvement, so they're going to be worth a few points. But I think the buildings that matter about resources are probably in Calder's hands. There is no reason for her to have got that read if she didn't have the building that scored for bonus read.
It'd be interesting to see if that -5 makes a difference with those extra point buildings that she's got in place. But I think the lack of sheep, the lack of grain and other things are going to take off a few little -1s there for her as well.
Yeah. So we will see. We've got Ankush has got
moves,
2 actions, Tom's got 1. And then we do go to field, have a harvest, and then a final score. So once we've got that with you, we will just confirm as quick as we can potentially the final standings. And to do that, I'm just going to have a look at to see what the other matches are in the field and see how they've gone so far.
Mine, I mean, I'd like to say with Rosa and Phil Watson, kind of the 2 strongest cards I've got.
I'll take 2 bonus. Don't know you.
Normally there's some VP markers that you take. Well, we can remember that hopefully. Me? That's what. No surprises there.
Me for final action.
So it looks like it's another occupation here for Tom. We'll see if we can find out what that is for you. And it also looks like we may have missed a minor improvement earlier from Ankush, which I believe he's just used. So Ankush has just taken advantage of the clay deposit. This card is an additional action space. A player who uses this action must pay you 1 food and receives 5 clay. If you use the clay deposit yourself, you may choose to take 2 bonus points instead of the clay. So it looks like instead of the clay, at the end of the game, he's given himself 2 bonus points there. That's for Ankush. And there was an extra occupation there as well for Tom. Let's just have a look at which one that was. The Mendicant. At the end of the game, you can discard up to 2 begging cards without losing points for him. So that's a fantastic card to have. I suppose if he knew he had that from the start, he's played for that. That's an absolutely excellent mechanic there from Tom. That may be the swing of it for Tom. Now those begging cards are out. He hasn't got to lose the points on his major improvement to cancel it. And again, he's getting the bonus points that Ankush put in play for him. So I can't say for certain, but at the moment, I feel like Tom's in a pretty favourable position for the win here. But again, apart from poor Kelder, who got stuck a little bit with Tom grabbing first player all the time, I think the other 2 players are closely in it as well. So it'd be interesting to see what the actual finish positions are, particularly between Danton and Ankush, given that Ankush is going for those Pentamind points and trying to see if he can sneak ahead of Andres.
What's going on?
I imagine Andres will be hovering around for the final results soon as well to see what this has done to the Pentamind standings.
So we're going to get some scoring from Mike Dixon. He's going to do some scoring.
Alright.
Okay, so scoring?
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah, okay.
So they actually won.
So what was it? Was it the constable?
No,
What did she have then that you
I
picked up?
picked that first pick.
No way.
Yeah.
That's insane.
So
Right, so.
you'd rather have a day labourer.
Alright, let's
do
do it.
Field,
Yeah.
that's a great.
Right, let's do the
Rather
final
have
score.
seafood than field. Yeah.
Oh.
Starting with Tom. Your points for fields.
4.
Dan for fields. 4. Ankush.
4.
And Kelvin. -1. Pastures. Tom.
0.
So it's minus one.
So -1.
4.
4.
4. 4 and
3, sorry.
3 each is 3 points, isn't it?
Yeah.
Grain from Tom.
4 points.
1 point.
4.
4 and
-1.
-1. Vegetables.
Vegetables. Well, I get 1 point.
Yeah.
2 points.
4.
1.
Yeah, you won this by a fair.
Sheep.
0. I haven't got any animals.
It's a -1.
That helps.
Okay, so Tom has no animals at all.
No, I've eaten them.
I've got 1 sheep.
Uh,
1 point.
So Dan, 1 sheep for a point.
1.
Ankush, 1 for a point. Calder,
0. So
-1. So Tom, we know it doesn't have any boars.
2
Down.
points for boars.
2 points. Ankush,
I've got 5.
3 points.
3.
Which one did you pass?
For
then?
ball. For ball. Oh, you have them on the
You
card.
passed the
3
field.
points.
Field watchman.
Yeah.
So you could have had the.
And
Yeah,
then
yeah.
Cattle
nice
again,
stuff,
-1.
amazing combo.
Yeah, but you
1 point
stopped
for
it.
Cattle, Dan.
I don't know anything.
1 point for
One.
Cattle.
One.
Yep.
Wait for
I've
the
got
score.
3.
3 points for Ankush.
Because they're trying to
-1.
hear.
-1 for Kelber. Unused spaces. So nothing there.
0.
0.
It's just me.
It's just you. No, so that's 5
Yeah.
unused spaces. Fenced stables. Does anybody have any?
No.
So your
10.
houses then. So 10 for Tom Stonehouse. Dan scores 3 for a clay house.
4.
Ankush 4 for clay.
6.
Kelder 6 for stone. Family members.
Tom,
Tom.
15.
Is everybody
I've got
15.
15,
I've got
9.
15, 15, 9. Okay. The next is points for cards, just the like straight up point value of your cards.
1, 2.
2 for Tom, yep.
5.
5 for Dan.
6.
9.
No, feel free.
Any bonus points? Starting from Tom.
You've got 3 for
got 3.
improvements.
Yeah, so I get 3.
Well, I presume you got them.
I've got 8. Has anyone got more than 8 improvements?
No.
No.
Or has anyone got 8? Or has anyone got 7 or more than 7 improvements?
So 8
yeah.
improvements wins that.
Yeah.
So that's 3
So
points.
it's just 3 total in bonus points.
Do you not get any? Oh no, you haven't got any.
I've got
does your
1
read get you
point
1 point?
for the
something?
last
Yeah.
Oh, I was going to go around.
Oh, yeah,
sorry. So it's Tom's 3. Any for Dan?
5. Yeah.
5 bonus points.
3 for the tutor and 2 for the pottery.
Yeah.
I've got 2.
2 bonus points for Ankush. And Kelder.
Oh, I've got 1.
1 for the excavator
Yeah.
shop. Okay. So you can obviously,
So
I'll have these
I've
up
asked
to obviously you please do check.
When it came round, so you should have had 6 combo.
Yeah.
I mean, both these came to me.
No, I probably could have.
Yeah, I mean,
Just a couple.
Not chance.
huh? Yeah.
Made a mistake.
Yeah, it's kind of game over from first up, really.
Can you start playing?
Me.
Got 46.
You got 46?
You did.
You must have got 50 something.
Yeah, you're 50.
35 or something, yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds about right. Well, at least you fence blocking didn't make any difference.
So by my calculations
I
then
didn't-
we've got
No.
Kelder scored 23. In third place Tom scoring 35. In second place Danton with 46. And the winner is Ankush with 50.
So there you have it. Ankush Kandawal not only wins the Agricola, I believe for him to win the overall Pentamind Championships. We thank you for watching. We are going to have to cut off soon. I will tell you that Scott Aegis is going to come third behind Danton and Ankush. He actually won his last match, but I believe Danton beats him on tie breaks or something like that. We haven't got full details, but Scott Aegis, well done. You were undefeated today, but sadly, because you tied two other players, finished better than you. So commiserations there, but well done for a great performance this week. Emily, I could not have done this without you. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you very much.
I hope you've had fun, and I hope
have.
you've had fun at home. Stay tuned for the live presentation of all the winners' medals later this evening. You've got the seniors, juniors, Euro game ones as well, which you'll be there cheering on Mike,
I will
think.
be, definitely.
And I will say, because I'm not going to be here for any of the streams, I would like to thank Bartek and the camera crew for having such a great job this week. So if you've had fun, please interact with the Mind Sports. Come down next year and join in. But for this week and this week alone, I'm going to say bye
Goodbye.
and see you soon.